Welcome to Sleepy Stories. In this episode, we will take a clear and steady look at the world of insects, the hidden civilization that hums beneath every step, shaping forests, crops, and even the air we breathe. The goal is to help you learn while you rest. If you do not fall asleep right away, that is completely fine. In the time you are awake, you will discover how these tiny organisms sustain nearly every ecosystem on Earth. Simply listen, let your breathing slow, and allow the information to settle at its own pace. If you enjoy learning while you rest, you can like this video and subscribe for more sleepy stories about science, nature, and the quiet intelligence of our planet. Insects are the most numerous and diverse group of animals on the planet. More than 1 million species have been described, and scientists estimate several million more still await discovery. Their total weight surpasses that of all humans combined. Wherever life can exist, from mountain peaks to underground caves, from tropical rainforests to frozen tundra, insects have adapted to thrive. Their success lies in miniature efficiency, small bodies, rapid reproduction, and designs perfected by hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Each species performs a role essential to the balance of the biosphere. Bees and butterflies pollinate flowering plants, ensuring fruit and seed production. Ants aerate soil, dispersing nutrients and helping water reach roots. Beetles and flies decompose the remains of plants and animals, returning carbon and nitrogen to circulation. Even mosquitoes, often viewed as pests, serve as food for countless birds, bats, and fish. Remove insects from this equation, and the natural order would begin to unravel within weeks. Scientists group insects within the class Insecta, characterized by a three-part body, head, thorax, and abdomen, 6 legs, and usually 1 or 2 pairs of wings. Their exoskeletons, made of chitin, provide both protection and structure. Compound eyes allow wide fields of vision. Antennae sense chemicals, vibrations, and air currents. Each detail, though small, is a masterpiece of engineering refined by necessity. Through these adaptations, insects have survived mass extinctions, global ice ages, and shifts in atmospheric chemistry that erased larger creatures. When we think of ecosystems, we often imagine the visible, trees, rivers, or animals. Yet beneath these scenes lies an invisible architecture built by insects. They are the hidden gears of the living machine. Every fallen leaf, every piece of fruit, every patch of soil holds a network of workers recycling matter into life again. Their colonies and life cycles link microscopic bacteria to the largest mammals. In this web, nothing stands alone. Energy flows continuously through countless wings and mandibles, transforming decay into renewal. The quiet persistence of insects invites a different form of attention, one that listens rather than looks. Imagine a summer field at dusk, the air vibrating with the soft pulse of wings, the grass shifting with unseen movement. Beneath that sound lies the heartbeat of the planet's metabolism. For millions of years, these tiny engineers have maintained the balance that allows forests to grow and oceans to breathe. Humanity, vast in its ambitions, rests on a foundation smaller than a fingernail. Understanding insects means understanding life itself as a system of relationships, precise, resilient, and endlessly cooperative. As you listen, awareness may replace fear or indifference. The buzz at your window is not random noise, but a signal from the machinery of existence. Tonight, we will journey into that hidden world, step by step, examining how each adaptation, each behavior, and each form of beauty contributes to the planet's ongoing rhythm. The story begins here, quietly, where every heartbeat meets the hum of wings. Hundreds of millions of years ago, the world looked completely different. Continents were bare and silent, without birds, trees, or mammals. The land was still an experimental frontier, shaped by wind and rain, but untouched by the constant motion of animal life. In shallow seas, the first arthropods, ancestors of modern insects, began to test the boundaries of water. Their armored bodies, covered in chitin, gave them protection against evaporation and predators. Step by cautious step, they crawled from tidal flats to the damp edges of newly formed coasts, carrying the blueprint for the first terrestrial ecosystems. At that time, oxygen levels in the atmosphere were far higher than they are today. Air that we would find heavy and dense made breathing easy for small creatures with primitive lungs and tracheae. Ferns and mosses spread across moist ground, creating shelter and food. Simple insects, descended from crustacean-like ancestors, began to exploit this new world of roots and decay. The exoskeleton, already an ancient invention, became the key to success. Lightweight enough to move easily, strong enough to retain water and shield the soft tissues beneath. Evolution does not rush. It tests every possibility with patience. Over millions of years, legs adapted for crawling began to specialize, some for digging, others for jumping or grasping. Eyes became sharper, antennae more sensitive, and mouths diversified to chew, pierce, or sip. Each modification allowed insects to occupy a new niche, to fill a small vacancy in the growing web of life. As plants spread, insects followed, turning barren ground into living networks of interdependence. One of the most remarkable innovations was the development of wings. At first, they were simple extensions of the exoskeleton used to regulate temperature, but over time, they evolved into precise instruments of flight. The moment an insect lifted from the ground, the world expanded. It could escape danger, find food more quickly, and explore distant habitats. The conquest of air marked the beginning of an ecological revolution, one that still defines life on land today. Fossil evidence shows these pioneers in ancient stone, delicate impressions of dragonflies, mayflies, and primitive beetles preserved for hundreds of millions of years. Their forms are instantly recognizable, suggesting that the essential design of insects reached perfection early. Once refined, it needed little change. The balance between protection and mobility, between strength and lightness, remains one of nature's most successful blueprints. As you rest, you might picture those first explorers emerging from the water's edge. The sunlight of a new world reflected on their fragile shells, and every cautious step carried the future of terrestrial life. From their movement came the sound of evolution, the quiet rustle of progress that would one day fill the planet with wings, color, and motion. All of it began with that simple transition from sea to shore, when life learned to breathe air and the earth itself began to pulse with the rhythm of insects. Every insect carries its skeleton on the outside. This protective armor, called the exoskeleton, is one of nature's most efficient designs. Made primarily of chitin, a long-chain polymer similar to keratin in human nails, it forms a lightweight yet remarkably strong shell. The exoskeleton does more than defend. It supports muscles, preserves moisture, and provides a surface for sensory hairs that detect touch, temperature, and vibration. Beneath this thin shield lies a complex system of organs, held safely within the structural geometry of life reduced to its essentials. Unlike the flexible skin of mammals, the exoskeleton cannot grow continuously. To increase in size, an insect must periodically shed its outer layer in a process called molting. This transformation is carefully timed through hormones that control when the old shell splits and a new one begins to harden. During these brief intervals, the insect is soft and vulnerable. Once the new cuticle stiffens, color returns, pattern emerges, and strength is restored. The process is both mechanical and symbolic, life renewing itself through the delicate rhythm of letting go. The exoskeleton's surface tells stories written in structure. Scales on a butterfly's wing create colors not from pigment but from microscopic ridges that bend and scatter light. Beetles shimmer in metallic hues because their shells reflect wavelengths selectively, creating iridescence through physics rather than paint. Each ridge, bump, and groove serves a purpose, deflecting water, confusing predators, or strengthening against impact. Under magnification, these surfaces resemble architecture, intricate layers of vaults, lattices, and fibers, each calculated for maximum efficiency. For flight, the exoskeleton becomes a frame, light but rigid, transmitting the pull of muscles through the thorax. For burrowing insects, it thickens into armor. For water striders, it repels liquid with microscopic hairs. This adaptability explains the enormous success of insects. Their outer skeleton is not a limitation but a canvas for evolution. Across hundreds of millions of years, natural selection refined it into every possible form, from the glassy wings of mayflies to the hard domes of dung beetles. There is a quiet lesson in this design. Strength does not always mean heaviness, and protection does not require rigidity. The exoskeleton endures because it balances both. It shields yet bends. It supports yet breathes. For the listener, the thought may feel almost meditative. The idea that resilience can come from structure and lightness together. Some insects even use their shells as communication. The bright warning colors of wasps and ladybirds signal toxicity, while camouflage species vanish into bark or leaf litter. Others carry intricate patterns that blend protection with beauty, as if evolution, while solving practical problems, also found time for artistry. As the segment closes, imagine the soundless shimmer of a dragonfly hovering over still water, its wings refracting sunlight through transparent membranes. What appears delicate is in truth a marvel of materials science, thin as glass, yet stronger than steel by weight. The same principle that keeps that dragonfly aloft has held the insect world together for over 400 million years. Beneath the quiet surface of every forest and field, this armor of life endures, glinting unseen, patient and eternal. To understand the world of insects, one must first abandon the limits of human perception. Their senses operate in dimensions that we can barely imagine. Every compound eye is a landscape of lenses, thousands of tiny units called ommatidia, each pointing in a slightly different direction. Where we see a single continuous image, an insect perceives a mosaic of light, color, and motion. Each facet collects its own sliver of the scene, and the brain stitches these fragments into a dynamic pattern that prioritizes movement above all else. It is not detail that matters to an insect, but change, the flicker of a shadow, the shimmer of a wing, the vibration of air hinting at danger or opportunity. Dragonflies, masters of aerial precision, possess some of the most advanced eyes in the animal kingdom. They can track prey from meters away, calculating speed and trajectory with neural accuracy rivaling modern sensors. Their brains dedicate more than half of their capacity to vision alone. Flies, meanwhile, use fast, flickering light to their advantage. Where humans process about 60 visual frames per second, a fly perceives nearly 300. This allows them to react in fractions of a blink, a necessity in a world where survival depends on fractions of time. But sight is only part of the story. Insects live within a web of invisible signals. Antennae, often compared to delicate threads or feathers, are covered in minute pores and hairs that detect chemicals, humidity, and even electrical fields. A bee can sense the faint static charge of a flower's petals, learning not only where nectar is present but how recently another bee has visited. Moths follow the scent of mates from kilometers away, guided by single molecules drifting through the air. Ants, through smell alone, distinguish colony members from strangers and identify caste, task, and even emotional state. Their auditory world is equally strange. Crickets and katydids hear through membranes on their legs. Mosquitoes detect vibrations through fine filaments near their heads. Some butterflies, evolved under constant threat from bats, have developed organs that detect ultrasonic frequencies, allowing them to dive or spiral away before becoming prey. The world of insects is therefore not silent but saturated, filled with vibrations, scents, and electromagnetic whispers. It is a form of communication so subtle that human senses, tuned to the coarse scale of survival, cannot perceive it directly. Touch, too, becomes an information system. Each hair and bristle acts as a tiny motion detector, sending signals through nerves that respond faster than conscious thought. These mechanoreceptors line the body in patterns that seem decorative but are in fact maps of sensitivity. A fly walking on a ceiling can feel the pressure of its own weight inverted through these hairs, adjusting grip instantly. The sense of touch, combined with taste receptors on feet and mouth parts, gives insects the ability to sample surfaces before consuming them, a skill that turns every contact into data. The more scientists uncover, the clearer it becomes that insects are not primitive at all. Their sensory architecture, though microscopic, rivals the sophistication of complex vertebrates. They process information not through intelligence as humans define it, but through efficiency, direct, instantaneous responses shaped by evolution into elegance. An insect does not need to think to act perfectly. Its body already knows. If we could borrow their senses for a moment, the world would appear transformed. Flowers would glow with ultraviolet markings invisible to the human eye. The air would be dense with chemical trails. Every gust of wind would carry coded messages, every vibration a signal from something alive. What to us feels like stillness would, to them, be filled with movement and meaning. As you rest, it may help to imagine that expanded perception, to picture the layered world beyond ordinary sight. Somewhere outside, a moth follows the scent of a single blossom through darkness. A spider feels the tremor of air around its web and waits. These creatures live in constant dialogue with their surroundings, not as observers but as participants in a vast and continuous conversation. Their awareness, though wordless, mirrors a truth shared by all life. To exist is to sense, to listen, and to respond. When morning comes, we may open our eyes and see only simplicity, a fly landing on glass, an ant tracing a line. Yet beneath that simplicity lies a system older than mountains and more intricate than any design of human invention. The compound eyes and hidden senses of insects remind us that reality has many versions, each shaped by the tools that perceive it. Theirs is a world of detail too fine for us to see, yet always there, woven into the quiet hum of existence. Among all the wonders of the insect world, none captivates more deeply than metamorphosis. To watch a caterpillar become a butterfly or a larva turn into a dragonfly is to witness biology's most poetic act of reinvention. This process, which means change in form, is both a chemical sequence and a profound biological strategy. It allows a single organism to inhabit entirely different worlds during its lifetime, to crawl, then fly, to feed on leaves, then on nectar, to live twice within the same span of existence. Metamorphosis begins the moment an insect hatches. Incomplete metamorphosis, or hemimetabolism, is the simpler version. Grasshoppers, crickets, and cockroaches grow through several nymph stages that resemble miniature adults. With each molt, they shed their exoskeletons and expand in size until wings and reproductive organs fully develop. The transformation is gradual but relentless, guided by hormonal cues that signal when it is time to break free from the old shell. Complete metamorphosis, or holometabolism, is far more dramatic. Butterflies, beetles, flies, and bees experience 4 distinct stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Each stage is a new existence, with a different body plan, habitat, and diet. In the larval phase, the insect focuses solely on growth, eating, storing energy, and preparing for the silent miracle to come. When the time arrives, internal chemistry shifts. Hormones such as ecdysone and juvenile hormone orchestrate a controlled collapse, tissues dissolve, organs disassemble, and the larva retreats into stillness. Inside the pupa or chrysalis, what appears to be death is actually intense construction. Stem-like cells called imaginal discs awaken, expanding into wings, eyes, legs, and antennae. Within days or weeks, an entirely new creature takes shape from the raw materials of the old one. It is a biological rebirth governed by precision. Nothing is wasted. Even dissolved tissue is recycled into new structure. When the transformation ends, the shell splits and a new form emerges, soft and vulnerable, drying its wings in the light. From a scientific standpoint, metamorphosis evolved as an adaptive strategy. It reduces competition between young and adults. A caterpillar and butterfly do not fight for food. One eats leaves, the other drinks nectar. This division of labor allows both stages to thrive within the same environment. In other species, such as beetles or flies, larvae occupy entirely different ecosystems, underground, in wood, or within fruit, before surfacing as winged adults. Diversity of form becomes a mechanism for ecological harmony. The process also demonstrates the power of timing in biology. Each molt, each transformation, follows the rhythm of temperature, daylight, and hormonal balance. If one signal arrives too early or too late, the cycle collapses. Insects therefore embody a kind of evolutionary patience. Change only occurs when conditions are right. This patience echoes throughout nature. Seeds waiting for rain, bears for spring, coral for the pull of the moon. There is quiet symbolism in metamorphosis that extends beyond science. To change completely, an insect must first dissolve what it was. The larva surrenders its shape, trusting a pattern hidden in its own cells. Within the chrysalis, there is no movement, only stillness. Yet inside that stillness, everything is being rewritten. When the adult emerges, it carries no memory of crawling, yet the two lives remain bound by the same DNA. In this, metamorphosis becomes a reflection of renewal itself, the universe's quiet promise that transformation requires surrender, not speed. The world is full of silent chrysalides, in leaves, in soil, in the corners of our awareness. While we sleep, change happens continuously around us and within us, cells replaced, thoughts renewed, cycles of decay becoming growth again. The insect's metamorphosis, observed closely, is less an exception than a reminder of life's constant reinvention. As you rest, picture a chrysalis hanging from a branch, trembling lightly in the evening air. Inside, unseen, order forms from chaos. Soon, a seam will open, and wings, paper-thin yet strong, will unfurl toward light. What was once a creature of soil will join the air, guided by instincts written long before memory began. It is the same rhythm that moves through all things, a quiet lesson whispered through evolution, that nothing truly ends, it only changes form. Even in the smallest creatures, life moves to a rhythm. For insects, that rhythm governs not only flight and feeding but also rest. Though they do not sleep in the same way humans do, many insects follow distinct cycles of activity and stillness that align with the rising and setting of the sun. Their bodies obey internal clocks, circadian rhythms that measure day length and temperature, guiding when to move, when to feed, and when to pause. These patterns are ancient, written in the genes of almost every living thing on Earth. Bees, for example, show sleep-like behavior that mirrors our own in miniature. During the night, They find quiet spots within the hive, fold their legs under their bodies, and let their antennae droop. Their breathing slows. If disturbed, they react sluggishly, much like a person woken from deep sleep. Experiments have shown that a well-rested bee remembers the location of flowers more accurately than one deprived of rest, suggesting that even in insects, memory consolidates during stillness. Inside the hive, this nightly calm ripples outward, a collective pause that maintains balance between exertion and renewal. Other insects display rest through silence rather than stillness. Crickets, whose songs dominate summer nights, often cease their rhythm at the edge of dawn, conserving energy for the next performance. Fruit flies retreat to the shaded undersides of leaves when light intensity rises, their nervous systems entering a slower mode of function. Butterflies close their wings, sealing warmth within, their bodies entering a temporary state of suspended awareness. Each example reveals the same principle, that life, no matter how small, cannot exist in perpetual motion. On a cellular level, this rest corresponds with biochemical repair. Energy stores rebuild, damaged proteins are replaced, and sensory organs reset for another day of activity. Scientists studying circadian genes in insects have discovered that the same molecular machinery controlling human sleep, proteins like period and timeless, also regulates insect behavior. These molecules oscillate in concentration, acting as internal metronomes. When light strikes the eyes at dawn, it resets the rhythm. When darkness returns, the cycle begins again, precise and dependable. Even social insects, which seem always in motion, live by this rhythm. Within an ant colony, activity rises and falls like breathing. Scouts emerge, workers forage, then all retreats into collective quiet. Termites follow similar pulses, their labor punctuated by rest phases that align across thousands of individuals. These patterns are not chaos but synchronization, nature's way of preventing exhaustion in systems that never truly stop. For the listener, this invisible tempo offers a reflection of our own need for rhythm. We, too, are biological creatures bound to cycles of light and dark, action and recovery. The pulse that drives the bee's wing beat also guides the human heartbeat. Both must slow before they can continue. In that sense, rest is not merely a luxury, but a law of existence. It restores balance to every organism that obeys it. Imagine now the world at night, when the air cools and the fields quiet. Beneath leaves, among grass, and inside hollow stems, millions of tiny bodies become still. A cricket curls under a stone, an ant pauses in its tunnel, a moth clings to bark, wings folded. The planet's vast machinery seems to slow, its smallest parts resting in harmony with the turning earth. Even in silence, work continues, the quiet repair of living systems preparing for light once more. As you breathe gently, you may sense that same rhythm within yourself, a steady rise and fall, an echo of nature's pulse. Like the bee in its hive or the butterfly in its hidden shelter, your own body follows patterns older than memory. You do not need to force rest. It arrives naturally, drawn by the same cycles that guide every heartbeat and every wing. Let your thoughts settle into that quiet motion, where stillness is not emptiness but renewal. Insects remind us that rest, however brief, sustains the miracle of life. Long before birds filled the skies, wings belonged to insects. They were the first creatures to master the air, transforming the surface of Earth into a three-dimensional world. This moment in evolutionary history was not a sudden leap, but a gradual refinement, a series of small experiments conducted by nature over millions of years. It began roughly 400 million years ago, when the earliest winged insects emerged from their aquatic ancestors. Their new form of movement changed everything. In a single evolutionary step, they could escape predators, find new habitats, and exploit resources far beyond their reach on the ground. The air, once empty, became alive with motion. No one knows exactly how the first wings evolved. Some scientists suggest they arose from gill-like structures that once helped aquatic ancestors absorb oxygen. Others believe they began as small flaps used to regulate body temperature or glide short distances. Whatever their origin, these extensions gradually grew larger and more flexible, powered by strong muscles attached to the insect's thorax. The ability to fly did not merely improve survival, it rewrote the rules of evolution. With the sky open, competition changed form, and the insect lineage diversified into countless shapes and sizes. Fossils tell stories of that transformation. In the vast swamps of the Carboniferous period, giant dragonflies ruled the air. Some had wingspans of more than 70 centimeters, larger than a modern hawk's. The atmosphere then contained higher oxygen levels, allowing these ancient flyers to grow immense. Their wings were translucent, laced with veins like rivers branching across a plain. Even today, their descendants remain almost identical in design, proof that perfection, once achieved, needs no revision. The mechanics of flight are both delicate and precise. Each wing acts as a flexible airfoil, generating lift through motion rather than shape alone. Tiny ridges strengthen the membrane, preventing collapse under pressure, while joints allow subtle control of pitch and angle. Bees and flies beat their wings hundreds of times per second, creating vortices of air that hold them steady. Butterflies, with slower, broader strokes, glide between beats, conserving energy while carrying color through sunlight. The physics are intricate, yet nature performs them effortlessly. With flight came freedom and new challenges. The sky is vast but full of invisible hazards. Wind, predators, shifting temperature. Insects responded with adaptability. Some learned to hover, holding still against gravity's pull. Others mastered rapid turns, loops, and dives. Flight allowed migration, escape, and exploration. It also connected ecosystems. Insects could now carry pollen between distant plants, helping to spark the evolution of flowering species. The partnership between wings and blossoms would later define much of terrestrial life. Flying also required new sensory systems. Compound eyes evolved to track motion, while gyroscopic organs called halteres, found in flies, acted as balance sensors, detecting angular movement. These biological instruments gave insects an awareness of motion far beyond human ability. A fly can rotate mid-air faster than a human eye can register movement. A dragonfly, locked onto prey, calculates interception in real time, its brain predicting motion with astonishing precision. Yet flight was not just a tool for survival. It became a form of expression. The colors of butterfly wings, shimmering through structural reflection, attract mates and deter predators. Bees communicate through flight patterns, performing dances that share the direction and distance of nectar sources. Even sound, the buzz we hear near flowers or windows, is a byproduct of flight, the audible rhythm of energy at work. That hum, though often ignored, is one of the oldest songs on Earth, a constant echo of evolution's triumph. As you rest, picture that ancient sky filled with wings. The air would shimmer with motion, sunlight flashing through translucent membranes as millions of creatures learned to navigate the open world. Imagine the silence before the first flight, and then the quiet rush of air as the wings rose, the beginning of freedom in motion. Every butterfly today, every bee, every gnat hovering above a leaf, carries the memory of that first ascent. Flight, once a fragile experiment, became the heartbeat of nature's design. And somewhere outside your window, in the gentle evening air, the descendants of those first flyers still trace invisible paths above the earth, keeping that rhythm alive. Every wing that catches light carries a story written in color, vibration, and movement. Insects were among the first artists of the natural world, painting the air with iridescent flashes and gentle hums. What appears decorative to us often serves purpose: communication, camouflage, or defense. The beauty of an insect's wing is not random, it is language expressed through physics. The colors we see on butterflies, beetles, and dragonflies come from two main sources: pigments and structure. Pigments, like those that color human skin or flower petals, absorb certain wavelengths of light and reflect others. But many insect colors are created by a more intricate mechanism called structural coloration. At a microscopic scale, wings and shells are built from layers of chitin, only a few hundred nanometers thick, about the same size as the wavelength of visible light. When light strikes these layers, it bounces, scatters, and interferes, producing hues that shift with the viewing angle. That's why a beetle's shell may shimmer from green to blue as it moves, or a butterfly's wing glows electric in sunlight but appears muted in shade. The morpho butterfly, native to South America, is one of the most studied examples of this optical phenomenon. Its wings are covered in microscopic scales arranged like rows of shingles, each scale etched with ridges that reflect blue light while cancelling out other colors. The result is a glow so vivid that it can be seen from hundreds of meters away. Yet under ultraviolet light, wavelengths invisible to humans, the pattern changes again, revealing markings used for mating and recognition among other butterflies. The same principle applies to many dragonflies, beetles, and even the transparent wings of some flies, which bend light into faint rainbows that flicker across their surfaces. For insects, color is rarely static. It shifts with mood, age, or environment. Some species darken when cold to absorb heat, while others lighten in brightness or hue to deflect sunlight. The color on a butterfly's wing can even fade slightly as it flies, tiny scales wearing down like footprints on a well-traveled path. The patterns of nature are therefore living things, changing in response to temperature, humidity, and light. Sound, too, is a tool of the airborne. The buzz we associate with bees or flies is not deliberate song, but the mechanical rhythm of flight, the rapid beating of wings, compressing and releasing air. Yet other insects have turned that physical vibration into communication. Crickets rub specialized ridges on their wings together in a process called stridulation. Each species produces a distinct frequency, like a personal signature. The sound carries across grasslands and forests, attracting mates and marking territory. Cicadas take this to another level. Their bodies contain resonating chambers that can amplify calls to deafening volumes, filling summer air with sound that vibrates through trees like the hum of distant machinery. Even quieter species rely on vibration. Bees communicate through what researchers call the waggle dance, a complex sequence of movements and sounds that relay information about food sources. The angle of the dance indicates direction relative to the sun, while the intensity conveys distance. Inside the hive, other bees sense these signals not through sight but through the subtle vibration of air and comb. The hive becomes a living instrument, each wing beat another note in a collective rhythm. The physical structure of wings also acts as an amplifier. Tiny membranes at the base of some wings resonate at particular frequencies, allowing insects to produce or perceive sound with remarkable precision. Moths evolved ears tuned to the ultrasonic calls of hunting bats, a defense system so sensitive that a single echo can trigger evasive maneuvers mid-flight. These acoustic adaptations are both ancient and ongoing, proof that nature's engineers refine their instruments generation after generation. To the human ear, these sounds blend into background noise, but in truth they form a global symphony. The low hum of bees, the tremolo of crickets, the faint clicks of beetles moving through soil, all merge into an unseen chorus. Scientists call it the biophony of the planet, the total sound of life. If one could listen deeply enough, the earth itself would seem to breathe in rhythm with these countless small vibrations. As you rest, you might imagine that symphony unfolding around you. In a meadow at dusk, light fades while sound persists, wings catching the last rays of day, frequencies layering gently in the air. Each tone has a purpose, warning, attraction, navigation, and yet together they create something like harmony. The world of insects, so often overlooked, hums with structure and music. Their colors speak in light, their sounds speak in air, and together they compose the language of flight. If insects could be seen as architects, their cities would rival any human achievement in design and efficiency. Across the planet, ants, termites, bees, and wasps have mastered engineering at scales that defy imagination. Without blueprints, machines, or leaders issuing commands, they construct vast colonies, regulate climate, and organize labor with precision that rivals computer algorithms. To observe their work is to witness the quiet intelligence of cooperation, a language of instinct that turns chaos into structure. Ants are the most studied of these miniature engineers. Their nests can extend several meters underground, a labyrinth of chambers and tunnels arranged for ventilation, humidity control, and traffic flow. Each individual follows a few simple behavioral rules: dig when space is narrow, carry soil upward, follow scent trails of others. From these limited instructions emerges collective order, a phenomenon scientists call emergent behavior. No single ant understands the nest's blueprint, yet the colony builds with purpose. Air currents circulate through angled shafts, waste is stored in distant chambers, and broods are kept in rooms with carefully maintained temperature. Some ant mounds even include living architecture. Workers themselves form bridges and rafts, linking bodies together to span water or cross gaps. Termites, another group of builders, create some of the most remarkable structures in nature. In Africa and Australia, their mounds rise several meters high, shaped like towers or spires. These structures are not random piles of soil, they are breathing organisms. Internal tunnels regulate heat, humidity, and carbon dioxide. As sunlight warms one side, air expands and circulates through the mound, creating natural ventilation without mechanical energy. Researchers studying termite architecture have used these principles to inspire energy-efficient buildings, demonstrating that ancient instincts can inform modern sustainability. Bees, by contrast, build in wax and air. The honeycomb is one of nature's most mathematically elegant designs, a repeating pattern of hexagons that fills space efficiently without wasted material. Each cell has precisely the same angle of walls, ensuring structural stability and maximum volume for storing honey or larvae. Scientists once debated whether bees calculated these angles consciously, but the answer lies in physics. When wax of the right temperature meets equal pressure from surrounding cells, it naturally forms hexagons, proof that nature's mathematics requires no calculation, only consistency. Inside this geometry, bees regulate temperature by fanning wings, evaporating moisture, and circulating air. The entire hive acts as a single organism, balancing energy through continuous motion. Wasps, though often solitary hunters, also display architectural precision. Paper wasps chew wood fibers into pulp, forming layers that dry into delicate yet strong walls. Their nests, suspended from eaves or trees, are light enough to sway in wind yet resilient against rain. Each cell is shaped to fit the developing young perfectly. Though small, these structures echo the same efficiency found in skyscrapers, strength derived from shape, not mass. Underlying all these examples is a principle of decentralized intelligence. Each insect operates with limited awareness, yet collectively, their interactions produce complexity. This phenomenon has inspired modern algorithms for robotics and logistics, known as swarm intelligence. Drones, computer programs, and even traffic systems now mimic the behaviors of ants and bees to optimize efficiency. Nature, long before human innovation, solved problems of coordination, communication, and adaptation through simple repetition and feedback. The materials insects use also show resourcefulness. Ants and termites build with soil and saliva, bees with wax, wasps with wood, each combining what is available into architecture suited to local climate. In tropical forests, humidity-resistant mounds prevent collapse. In deserts, ventilation keeps heat from suffocating the colony. Even the smallest creatures apply the same logic architects and engineers use. Form follows function. The harmony of these constructions reflects something deeper, the biological imperative for order. Where humans build to protect themselves from nature, insects build within it, shaping structures that serve both shelter and system. Every chamber in a hive, every tunnel in a mound, contributes to the survival of the community and, by extension, the ecosystem it supports. When rain falls, tunnels absorb water and redistribute nutrients. When heat rises, air moves, carrying spores and gases that feed surrounding soil. These constructions, though built by instinct, become part of Earth's living architecture. As you rest, picture the hidden world beneath your feet. Entire civilizations humming in the dark soil, adjusting to temperature, rebuilding after storms, carrying particles one grain at a time. No sound, no command, just purpose, repeating endlessly. The same principle that guides those tiny engineers also governs greater systems. Atoms aligning into molecules, cells forming tissues, planets orbiting stars. Structure emerges from simplicity, order from motion, and while the surface of the world sleeps, the builders below continue their silent work, keeping the planet alive, one grain of earth at a time. The world of insects is full of messages we cannot see. Where humans rely on sight and sound, insects communicate primarily through chemistry, an invisible language of molecules drifting on the air. Every colony, every swarm, every solitary creature leaves traces of information behind, scent trails, pheromones, and chemical signatures that signal alarm, attraction, or belonging. These substances are subtle yet powerful, guiding behavior as surely as words or music guide us. Ants are the great masters of chemical communication. When a scout discovers food, it lays a trail of pheromones, complex chemical compounds that evaporate slowly from its abdomen, marking the path back to the nest. Other ants detect the scent through receptors on their antennae and follow it precisely. As more workers travel the route, each strengthens the trail by adding their own pheromones, turning a faint signal into a busy highway. When the food source disappears, the trail fades and the system resets. Without a single leader, the colony reorganizes itself through chemistry alone. This is communication at its most efficient. Real-time information shared by thousands, transmitted molecule by molecule. Pheromones also act as emotional messengers. Some trigger alarm, causing soldiers to swarm toward a threat. Others encourage calm, reproduction, or coordination. In honeybees, the queen emits a special blend of compounds that maintains order within the hive. Her pheromones signal fertility, unity, and hierarchy. When she grows old or weak, the change in her scent tells workers it is time to raise a new queen. This invisible governance keeps the colony stable without confrontation, a harmony maintained entirely through smell. Moths have developed one of the most astonishing uses of scent in the animal kingdom. A single female can release pheromones detectable by males from kilometers away. Each species uses a unique chemical formula, preventing confusion among hundreds of similar signals floating in the night air. Males, equipped with elaborate feather-like antennae, detect even a few molecules, navigating against the wind to reach their partner. It is a delicate dance between physics and instinct, Scent disperses through turbulence, and yet the moth's brain reconstructs direction from randomness. To us, this ability seems almost supernatural. To them, it is simply survival. Termites, too, depend on chemical codes. Soldiers release defensive pheromones when their tunnels are breached, alerting workers to repair damage and repel intruders. Some species combine chemical and vibrational communication. Soldiers beat their heads against the tunnel walls to send alarm waves through the colony, a percussive message that resonates faster than scent can travel. The entire structure becomes both fortress and transmitter. Scientists studying insect communication have learned that pheromones are not simple smells, but complex blends. Each species adjusts proportions and timing like a composer arranging chords. Even closely related insects may vary their molecular ratios slightly, enough to prevent confusion. This precision ensures stability in environments dense with signals. The air above a meadow, for instance, carries countless invisible messages layered over one another. Invitations, warnings, boundaries, each reaching only its intended recipients. Beyond pheromones, insects also use electromagnetic and visual cues as part of their vocabulary. Some ants can sense polarized light to orient during navigation. Bees interpret the sun's position and share it through their waggle dance, a movement pattern encoding both distance and direction to nectar sources. When a bee performs this dance inside the dark hive, others feel the vibrations through their legs and body, reading the information like a living map. It is one of the most sophisticated examples of non-verbal communication known in nature. For humans, the world of scent is faint and fading, but for insects it is immediate and immersive. The air is not empty space, but a landscape of molecules shifting constantly. Every breeze carries information. Every trace of odor reveals who passed by, what happened, and what might come next. Communication for insects is not about language but awareness, a state of connection to their environment that never ceases. As you rest, you might imagine this chemical world around you. The air you breathe is full of unseen messages, oxygen exhaled by trees, traces of pollen, the subtle scent of soil. Somewhere in the dark, ants trace lines through grass, following invisible signals laid by others. Bees sense vibrations inside their hives, moths drift toward the faintest perfume of a mate. The air hums not with sound but with information, carried gently on currents that circle the earth. In the stillness of night, while the human world grows quiet, the language of insects continues, silent, precise, and unbroken. Their messages in the air remind us that communication does not always need words, that connection can exist in forms far too small to see, yet powerful enough to organize entire civilizations. The same invisible order that guides them also surrounds us, written softly into the atmosphere that all life shares. If one were to look at a swarm of insects for the first time, a cloud of gnats drifting in sunlight, a murmuration of midges above water, a column of ants moving across the ground, it might appear chaotic, random, even meaningless. Yet beneath that motion lies a structure as elegant as any equation in physics. Every turn, every pause, every shift in density follows a set of simple rules that together create astonishing complexity. Insects, without central control or conscious coordination, demonstrate how order can emerge spontaneously from the smallest interactions. The foundation of this natural mathematics is local response. Each insect reacts not to the swarm as a whole, but to the immediate behavior of its nearest neighbors. Stay close, avoid collisions, match speed. These are the unspoken laws of movement. When thousands obey them simultaneously, waves of motion ripple through the group with precision that rivals computer simulations. Scientists studying locusts, bees, and fruit flies have found that these dynamics follow principles identical to those governing fluids and gases. The swarm behaves like a living liquid, constantly shifting but always coherent, bound together by shared motion. Dragonflies and midges exemplify this phenomenon in the air. They adjust position using both visual and aerodynamic cues, maintaining perfect spacing even in turbulence. On the ground, army ants form rivers of movement, tens of thousands streaming in parallel lanes, carrying prey, debris, and eggs with remarkable efficiency. When an obstacle appears, they reroute instantly, guided by pheromone gradients and the pressure of neighboring bodies. The system operates without hesitation, a choreography performed by instinct and feedback. Computer scientists have long been fascinated by this natural engineering. Models of swarm intelligence now guide the development of robotics, crowd control systems, and optimization algorithms. By mimicking ant trails, engineers design delivery routes and data networks that self-correct in real time. By imitating flocking midges, programmers teach drones to navigate as coordinated units without collision. The smallest minds on Earth, acting together, have become models for the most advanced technologies of cooperation. Mathematically, a swarm's order arises from nonlinearity, the property of systems in which small changes lead to large effects. When one ant finds food and reinforces a trail, thousands follow. When one bee signals a promising flower patch, the entire colony adjusts its focus. Feedback amplifies action until the collective response stabilizes into pattern. It is a process of emergence, intelligence without thought, precision without planning. This principle appears everywhere in nature, in the patterns of galaxies, the flow of rivers, and even the firing of neurons within a brain. Swarming also provides safety. For many species, unity confuses predators. A bird facing a cloud of flying insects cannot target one individual. In water, mosquito larvae move as coordinated masses, distributing risk through movement. In each case, survival depends not on strength, but on synchrony. Life has learned that cooperation can be a shield. Yet the swarm is more than defense, it is expression. The glittering ribbons of mayflies over rivers, the spirals of midges at dusk, the drifting clouds of butterflies migrating across continents, these are living demonstrations of geometry in motion. Scientists measuring swarm dynamics note that the equations describing them echo those of plasma, the fourth state of matter. In this view, a swarm is not just a group of animals but a collective field, an energy form shaped by interaction. In a deeper sense, the mathematics of swarms offers a glimpse into how life organizes itself at every scale. From molecules forming cells to societies forming civilizations, complex order arises from simple repetition. Nature never commands, it coordinates. The same principle that drives a swarm of bees may underlie the organization of ecosystems and the behavior of weather systems. Complexity is not chaos but rhythm, a dance between autonomy and alignment. As you rest, imagine that silent dance continuing beyond your sight. In a forest clearing, a cloud of insects moves as one, shifting with the wind, dissolving, reforming. No leader, no map, only motion guided by proximity and instinct. The pattern changes constantly yet remains harmonious, like breath or tide. That is how nature sustains its balance, through countless small decisions aligning into vast order. If you listen closely, the world itself seems to hum with that same logic, the quiet, steady mathematics of life, finding its shape in motion. When daylight fades and the hum of activity softens, the hive begins to dream. To the outside observer, it may seem that nothing rests in such a place. Thousands of bees still moving, wings brushing, antennae touching, yet beneath the motion lies rhythm, a slow descent into collective calm. Insects do not sleep as we do, but many enter states of reduced activity, conserving energy while vital functions continue. In this way, rest spreads through the hive like dusk across a field, gradual, synchronized, essential. Inside the hive, the air grows warmer as night deepens. Worker bees cluster around the queen, forming a living mantle that regulates temperature. Their muscles twitch at intervals, releasing just enough heat to maintain stability. The outer bees rest their legs and fold their wings, drifting into a state that scientists call behavioral sleep. Brain activity drops, sensory responsiveness decreases, and breathing slows. In experiments, bees awakened too frequently show signs of fatigue. They forage less effectively, communicate poorly through their dances, and misjudge the position of flowers. Even in creatures built for ceaseless work, the need for rest is absolute. The queen herself seldom stills completely. Her metabolism remains constant, laying the foundation for the next day's cycle of growth. Yet even she is bound by the rhythm of the colony. Her pheromones, chemical signals that maintain unity, diminish slightly at night, allowing a kind of quiet independence among the workers. For a few hours, the hive breathes in a slower pattern, balanced between motion and stillness. Ant colonies show a similar nightly rhythm. Though some workers remain active, most retreat deeper into their nests, where humidity and temperature remain stable. In these hidden chambers, they pause, motionless, except for faint antennae movements. The colony does not stop, it simply shifts its energy inward. Scientists monitoring activity in large colonies have found that waves of rest pass through the population like gentle tides, never synchronized completely, ensuring that the system remains alive but never exhausted. In the darkness of termite mounds, the same pattern continues. Ventilation slows, tunnels cool, and sound fades. Workers, so tirelessly building and repairing during the day, become still in the deep chambers. These pauses prevent overheating, conserve resources, and allow the colony to function with quiet precision. If one listens closely with sensitive instruments, faint vibrations persist, the soft heartbeat of life maintaining itself even in rest. The patterns of these hives and colonies mirror the rhythms found across the living world. Plants slow their photosynthesis at night, coral polyps withdraw into shells, birds fold wings and lower heart rates. The universe seems to breathe through cycles of activity and recovery, each pulse matched to the turning of the planet. For insects, whose lives are brief yet intense, this rhythm ensures survival. Without rest, coordination falters, instincts misfire, and the colony's harmony dissolves. For humans, the parallel is both humbling and comforting. We, too, live within a hive of sorts, our cities and societies buzzing with work, communication, and purpose. And like bees, we require stillness to restore meaning to motion. Sleep is our collective pause, the nightly hum reduced to a whisper. Within it, memories organize, energy renews, and thought reshapes itself quietly beneath consciousness. As you listen, imagine the hive in darkness. Thousands of bees nestled together, bodies vibrating faintly, air scented with honey and wax. The sound of wings fades until only the faintest murmur remains, a soft pulse of life suspended in time. Around them, the night air cools, and the stars shimmer like distant lanterns. Everything, from the smallest cell in a bee's body to the spinning earth itself, moves within the same rhythm of rest and renewal. You do not need to chase sleep tonight. It will come on its own, the way stillness settles over a hive when the last light fades. Like the bees resting within their honeycomb, your body already knows how to find balance between activity and calm. Breathing slows, thoughts drift, and the mind folds softly into the shared quiet of the living world. This is the hum beneath silence, the dreaming hive of life, where work and rest complete one another in endless, peaceful symmetry. Every time a flower opens, it sends an invitation into the world, a signal of color, scent, and reward. Insects are the guests who answer. Between them exists an alliance so ancient and precise that entire ecosystems depend on its rhythm. This partnership between flowering plants and pollinating insects, known as mutualism, is one of nature's greatest success stories. It sustains forests, crops, and even the air we breathe. Nearly 3/4 of the world's flowering plants rely on insects to transfer pollen from one bloom to another. Without them, landscapes would fade into silence and scarcity. This pact began over 100 million years ago, when early insects searching for food encountered primitive flowers. The relationship began by accident. A beetle brushed against pollen grains and unknowingly carried them to another plant. Over countless generations, both sides refined the exchange. Flowers evolved petals that attracted attention, patterns that guided movement, and nectar that rewarded cooperation. Insects evolved specialized body shapes, hairs, and tongues to collect these rewards efficiently. Together, they created a balanced system, an economy of color and chemistry where nothing is wasted. Bees became the most skilled traders in this ancient marketplace. Their bodies, covered in fine branched hairs, act as perfect pollen traps. As a bee lands on a bloom, static electricity builds between body and petal, pulling pollen onto its surface. When the bee visits another flower, some of those grains brush off onto the new stigma, enabling fertilization. Each visit ensures that another seed will form, another generation will bloom. Inside the hive, pollen mixes with nectar to create bee bread, a protein-rich food that nourishes larvae and sustains the colony. The act of feeding thus becomes an act of creation, nourishment for both bee and plant. Butterflies and moths play their part in this silent contract. Their long proboscises reach deep into tubular flowers, where other insects cannot. They drink nectar while their bodies brush pollen from hidden anthers. At night, moths continue the work under the stars, visiting pale or fragrant blossoms that bloom only in darkness. Even beetles, often seen as clumsy intruders, pollinate magnolias, water lilies, and ancient plant species that evolved before bees ever existed. The partnership extends beyond survival. It defines beauty itself. The bright colors of petals, the symmetry of patterns, the perfume of blooms, all evolved to attract attention. Many flowers display markings visible only under ultraviolet light, guiding insects toward nectar the way runway lights guide planes. Humans cannot see these signals, but bees perceive them vividly. Concentric circles, arrows, and radiant paths invisible to our eyes. The natural world glows in wavelengths beyond human vision, designed for communication between flower and insect. This cooperation is also remarkably fragile. Climate change, habitat loss, and pesticides disrupt the delicate timing that keeps the pollination cycle in balance. A few days' shift in flowering season can separate a species of bee from its primary food source. Scientists now track these mismatches closely, understanding that if the rhythm breaks, entire ecosystems may falter. Some crops already show declines in yield due to disappearing pollinators, a quiet reminder that human prosperity remains tied to the flight of small wings. Yet nature's resilience endures. Many insects adapt by expanding their diets or changing their ranges. Urban gardens, wildflower meadows, and even balconies become havens where the old contract continues. Each time a bee lands on a blossom, a thread in that ancient web is repaired. The pollinator's pact depends not on dominance, but on reciprocity, an exchange of gifts that sustains life in every direction. Imagine a field in full bloom. The air hums softly with movement, petals tremble under the brush of wings, and sunlight glints from grains of pollen drifting like golden dust. Every sound, every shimmer, every breath of fragrance is part of a dialogue older than memory. The bees work, the flowers respond, and the cycle continues, precise, patient, infinite. In that rhythm lies a lesson that giving and receiving are not opposites, but the same motion expressed through life. The pollinators remind us that balance is not achieved by stillness, but by constant, graceful exchange. In the vast world of insects, beauty and predation exist side by side. For every delicate pollinator gliding among flowers, there is another creature waiting in silence, patient and precise. The balance between hunter and prey sustains the web of life just as surely as cooperation does. No emotion drives it, only instinct, efficiency, and adaptation honed through time. What appears cruel, from a human view, is, in nature's language, simply the physics of survival. Among the most skilled hunters is the praying mantis, an insect named for its reverent posture. With forelegs folded as if in prayer, it waits motionless until prey wanders close. Then, in less than the blink of an eye, the forelegs strike. Spines lock around the victim, holding it fast while the mantis consumes with careful precision. Its triangular head rotates almost a full circle, and its compound eyes track movement from extraordinary distances. The mantis is both sculpted and sculptor, an artist of stillness who survives through patience. Other predators rely on speed. Dragonflies, descendants of ancient giants, are aerial hunters of astonishing skill. They can detect a single mosquito in a swarm, plot its path, and intercept it midair using predictive vision. Their two pairs of wings move independently, allowing them to hover, dart, or fly backward with perfect control. Studies show that dragonflies achieve success rates higher than most vertebrate hunters. In the geometry of flight, they are precision itself, killing not from cruelty, but because the design demands perfection. Spiders, though not insects, often share their ecosystems and serve as natural regulators of insect populations. Their webs are marvels of engineering, silk lines, thinner than hair, yet stronger than steel by weight. When a fly lands, vibrations travel instantly to the spider, signaling location, size, and struggle. The trap is not random. Each strand is tuned to a different frequency, forming a sensory network woven from protein and patience. In the calm of night, countless invisible webs tremble like silent instruments, keeping populations balanced through quiet arithmetic. Parasitic wasps demonstrate another form of predation, slow, deliberate, and macabre in its efficiency. Some species inject eggs into the bodies of caterpillars or beetle larvae. When the eggs hatch, the larvae feed internally, avoiding vital organs to keep the host alive until their own development completes. To human eyes, it seems grim, yet biologically it is a masterpiece of control. Every species that preys in this way plays a part in regulating others, preventing outbreaks that could devastate ecosystems. Camouflage and deception add further layers to this dance of survival. Stick insects vanish into foliage, walking leaves sway as though caught by wind, and mantises mimic orchids or dead twigs to conceal their presence. Prey, in turn, adapts to evade detection. Moths with wings resembling bark, butterflies whose undersides look like decayed leaves, beetles that feign death until danger passes. Evolution refines both sides in endless reciprocity, a duel of perception lasting hundreds of millions of years. The weapons of this microscopic world are diverse. Chemical defenses repel or poison, speed saves one life while ending another, and mimicry confuses both hunter and hunted. There are beetles that eject boiling fluid from their abdomens, ants that explode to protect the colony, and caterpillars that mimic snakes when threatened. Each adaptation emerges from necessity, the most ancient teacher. Through it all, ecosystems maintain their fragile equilibrium, a web suspended between energy gained and energy spent. For scientists, studying these interactions reveals not violence, but system design. Predation prevents overpopulation, ensuring resources remain balanced. In forests, predatory insects keep herbivores in check. In rivers, aquatic larvae feed on detritus and small prey, cleaning the water for other species. The result is not chaos but regulation, a living equation balancing life through consumption and renewal. Think about the night outside, the quiet hum of grass, the whisper of wings. Somewhere, a mantis sways with the breeze, waiting beneath a leaf. A dragonfly sleeps beside still water, its wings shimmering faintly in moonlight. Each is part of a system that neither hurries nor hesitates, functioning with a precision that transcends morality. The world is never truly still. Even in darkness, the balance continues, one life ending, another beginning. And from that exchange, the planet breathes, nourished by the eternal rhythm of hunter and prey. If the pollinators bring life to the world, the decomposers ensure its continuation. Without them, Earth would slowly choke on its own abundance. Every fallen leaf, every shell, every creature that returns to the soil passes through the patient work of insects. They are the unseen custodians of renewal, taking what has ended and turning it into the beginning of something new. Their labor is not destruction but transformation, the chemistry of continuity written quietly beneath our feet. The process begins almost at once. Within hours of a tree branch breaking or an animal falling still, scavenger insects arrive. Blowflies, drawn by faint chemical cues, lay eggs that hatch into larvae. Maggots feed on soft tissues, releasing enzymes that speed decay and make nutrients accessible to microbes. Beetles follow, breaking tougher material into fragments, small enough for bacteria and fungi to finish the work. Each participant performs a specific role, entering and leaving the scene according to a precise schedule. In this choreography of decay, order replaces chaos. Carrion beetles are particularly skilled recyclers. They often work in pairs, burying small remains beneath soil before laying their eggs. Their larvae grow within that hidden chamber, feeding on what their parents preserved. This underground nursery transforms death into life again, enriching the surrounding ground with nitrogen and carbon. Dung beetles perform a similar miracle above the surface, rolling and burying waste that fertilizes plants and aerates soil. Their activity, repeated by millions, shapes entire landscapes. Without them, grasslands would harden, forests would thin, and water would stagnate with unbroken layers of debris. Termites, sometimes mistaken for pests, are among the planet's most important recyclers. Their bodies house symbiotic microbes capable of breaking down cellulose, the strong material that gives plants structure. What few organisms can digest, termites transform into usable energy. In tropical forests, their mounds become centers of fertility. Around them, soil grows richer and vegetation more vibrant. What seems a small, localized act of digestion becomes an engine for global ecology. Each decomposer species follows its own pattern. Some prefer dryness, others thrive in moisture. Some appear by day, others by night. Together they maintain an unbroken relay of renewal, ensuring that nothing in nature truly ends. Matter circulates, transformed by mouths, mandibles, and microorganisms. Insects do not moralize or mourn, they participate. The forest floor, the grassland, even the ocean shore, all depend on these tiny laborers who keep the cycle intact. The science of decomposition has revealed much about time itself. Forensic entomologists use the sequence of insect arrivals to measure intervals of decay, their life cycles forming clocks of precision. From this research, we learn that decay is not chaos but order, predictable, rhythmic, and necessary. Life is sustained because death is efficient. In decomposition, energy changes shape but never disappears. Carbon returns to the air for plants to use again. Nitrogen sinks into the soil to feed roots. Each transformation tightens the loop that binds life together. The same atoms in a fallen leaf may rise again as part of a bird's wing, a human hand, or another tree. Nothing is wasted, everything moves. Though the subject may seem somber, the truth behind it is gentle. Without decomposition, forests would be clogged with the past. Instead, they remain alive and self-cleaning, renewing themselves endlessly. The work of decomposers is maintenance, not mourning, a reminder that continuity depends on those willing to dismantle what has served its purpose. As you picture a forest floor, imagine what happens beneath the surface: beetles tunneling through wood, maggots transforming flesh to soil, termites breaking fiber into sugar. In darkness and silence, they sustain the planet's metabolism. This is nature's great act of humility, unseen, tireless, perfect. Through insects, the earth breathes again, its waste transformed into possibility. What we call decay, the natural world calls balance. Among all the strategies that evolution has perfected, mimicry stands as one of its most elegant. To survive, many insects do not fight or flee, they simply vanish. They hide in plain sight, wearing the shapes and colors of their surroundings so precisely that even trained eyes struggle to find them. Others take the opposite approach, pretending to be something dangerous: a wasp, a thorn, or a drop of poison. Each imitation, whether for disguise or deception, is the product of millions of years of refinement, an unspoken contest between perception and adaptation. The leaf insect is perhaps nature's finest sculptor of illusion. Its body mimics foliage so perfectly that it not only looks like a leaf, it behaves like one. The wings carry the veins and blemishes of real plants. The legs taper into delicate stems, and when the wind blows, the insect sways with it, not because it must, but because stillness would reveal the trick. Even under magnification, the resemblance is uncanny. Predators see only the rustle of leaves, never the quiet life hidden within. Stick insects take camouflage further, shaping their bodies into the long, jointed forms of twigs. Some species even change color with humidity, matching fresh shoots in the morning and darkening by night. Certain tropical species remain motionless for days, the slow rhythm of breathing disguised as the subtle stretch of bark. When danger passes, they resume their slow, careful steps, an ancient choreography of survival perfected through patience. Not all mimicry hides, some warns. Many harmless insects borrow the symbols of danger to deter predators. Hoverflies, for instance, wear the bright yellow and black stripes of bees and wasps, but lack any sting. Birds avoid them nonetheless, having learned through experience that such colors often mean pain. This form of imitation, known as Batesian mimicry, works only because others truly possess venom. When enough imposters exist, the illusion weakens, forcing predators to test again and renewing the evolutionary arms race. Deception and honesty cycle endlessly, each shaping the other. Other species use mimicry to hunt rather than hide. The orchid mantis, pale pink and white, sits among blossoms, its limbs shaped like petals. Pollinating insects approach, drawn by what appears to be a flower, only to become prey. Here, beauty becomes bait. The lines between attraction and danger blur, revealing how nature often disguises predation as elegance. There are even cases of sound mimicry. Certain moths emit ultrasonic clicks that resemble the warning signals of toxic species, confusing bats that hunt by echolocation. Some beetles mimic the chemical scent of ants to infiltrate their colonies and feed unnoticed among them. Each imitation fits its context precisely: smell, sight, sound, or behavior, crafted through endless generations of refinement. Behind these adaptations lies the principle of perception itself. Mimicry works because it exploits how other creatures see. Predators recognize patterns, not details, and evolution sculpts insects to manipulate those shortcuts. A false shadow here, a patch of color there, and recognition falters. The lesson extends beyond biology. Perception is never perfect, and in the smallest errors, life finds opportunity. Scientists studying mimicry describe it as a dialogue between the deceiver and the deceived. For every improvement in camouflage, predators develop sharper senses. For every breakthrough in detection, prey evolves a subtler disguise. The balance never resolves. It remains dynamic, creative, and continuous. This process has produced astonishing beauty. Moths with eye spots resembling owls, butterflies whose wings open to reveal flashes of warning red, and caterpillars shaped like bird droppings to deter attack. If one looks closely, mimicry reveals something philosophical about life's resilience. Survival often comes not from strength but from understanding perception, from knowing what to show and what to hide. Insects mastered this truth long before humans discovered it in art or strategy. Their entire existence depends on illusion that becomes reality through belief. Somewhere in a forest tonight, a leaf trembles slightly, but it is not a leaf. A twig bends against gravity, but it is not wood. The insect within the disguise continues its quiet life unnoticed, an artist hidden inside its own creation. To watch this world closely is to realize that nature itself is full of deliberate misdirection, not cruelty, but craftsmanship. And in the silent theater of mimicry, life continues its oldest play, the art of becoming what one must to survive. Insects live in a world alive with vibration. Long before birds filled the air with song, the first crickets were already playing their rhythmic notes in the dark, turning the night into a landscape of sound. For them, communication is not merely an exchange of noise, it is an intricate code built from pressure, rhythm, and frequency. These signals are both delicate and deliberate, designed for survival and connection. The smallest motion of air, the faintest tremor through soil, carries meaning. Crickets are among the most familiar musicians of the insect world. Their songs are created through a process known as stridulation. One wing bears a row of microscopic ridges, the file, while the other carries a hardened scraper. When the cricket moves its wings rapidly together, friction produces a chirp that resonates through the body and into the surrounding air. Each species has its own tempo and tone. To a human ear, the song may sound simple, but to a female cricket, it is a signature, an indicator of the male's size, health, and even temperature. The faster the rhythm, the warmer the night. Cicadas, in contrast, produce sound through resonance rather than friction. On the sides of their abdomens are drum-like membranes called tymbals. Powerful muscles pull these membranes inward, then release them with a snap, producing vibrations that amplify within hollow air chambers inside the body. The resulting sound can exceed 100 decibels, louder than a chainsaw. To the cicada, this is not noise but broadcast, a call intended to travel across forests, drawing mates and establishing territory. When thousands sing together, their overlapping waves of sound become a single rolling roar, the auditory pulse of summer. Bees and wasps use vibration as language within their societies. A honeybee, for example, performs a waggle dance to indicate the location of nectar sources. The angle of her movement tells direction relative to the sun. The length of the dance communicates distance. Other bees feel the vibration through their legs and bodies, decoding this living map without a word. Inside the hive, sound becomes structure, a medium through which cooperation flows. Some insects even listen to frequencies humans cannot hear. Moths detect ultrasound to evade hunting bats, while tiny planthopers use substrate-borne vibrations, messages that travel through stems and leaves rather than through air. Each system evolved independently, tuned to the physics of its environment. A leaf becomes a telephone line, a wing beat, a beacon. The earth itself seems to vibrate with information. For scientists, studying these acoustic systems reveals not only biology but physics and mathematics. Insects rely on resonance, interference, and amplitude modulation, the same principles that govern instruments and radios. Their songs illustrate how natural selection can shape sound into meaning. Some species adjust pitch to avoid overlap with others, creating layered bands of communication much like radio frequencies. The forest at night is not random noise. It is an organized spectrum of voices, each occupying its precise frequency niche. The emotional quality humans sense in these sounds is, of course, projection, yet it is hard not to feel something in the rhythm of crickets or the hum of bees. Their tones rise and fall like breathing. A solitary cricket's call may seem lonely, but it is simply persistence written in vibration, a living being broadcasting its existence into the air. Life, at every scale, seeks resonance. Not all insect sounds are musical. Some serve as defense. Death's head hawk moths, for instance, emit squeaks when threatened, startling predators. Certain beetles click loudly to confuse bats. Even silence can be signal. When danger nears, some species cease all vibration instantly, vanishing into the stillness they command. Communication in these cases becomes an art of timing, where absence is as meaningful as presence. If you stand in a meadow on a warm night, the air hums with layered frequencies, crickets keeping time, cicadas resonating from the trees, bees returning to their hives, the soft rustle of wings between pulses. Every note carries purpose. Each sound is an announcement, a search, a defense, or an affirmation of life itself. Sound connects all creatures. Humans communicate with speech and music, insects with vibration and rhythm, but at their core, both rely on the same physics, waves moving through air, energy seeking harmony. Somewhere between our perception and theirs lies the truth. When daylight fades and the heat of the world begins to ease, the night wakes softly with wings. The sounds that fill the air after sunset are not random. They are part of the planet's quiet second shift, the hours ruled by moths, crickets, katydids, and fireflies. These nocturnal insects transform darkness into an ecosystem of its own, where vibration replaces vision and light takes new forms. For them, night is not rest but rhythm, and through their movements the sleeping earth continues to breathe. Moths are among the oldest of these night travelers. Long before butterflies emerged to dance in sunlight, their ancestors had already adapted to the dark. Their eyes, layered with specialized photoreceptors, can detect the faintest glimmer of moonlight. Many species navigate by keeping a constant angle to the moon, a celestial compass that guides migration and feeding. When artificial light interferes, their navigation falters, a modern confusion of instincts evolved under stars. Their wings, often dusted with scales that reflect faint silver or gold, shimmer as they pass through beams of light, each one a moving echo of starlight on Earth. Fireflies, or lightning bugs, bring light of their own. Their glow is produced through bioluminescence, a chemical reaction between oxygen, an enzyme called luciferase, and a molecule known as luciferin. The light they create is cool, wasting almost no energy as heat, and can be modulated in precise flashes. Each species blinks with its own rhythm, a silent code for courtship. In forests and meadows, these signals form constellations that pulse in unison, as if the stars themselves had descended into the grass. To those who watch, the scene feels otherworldly, yet it is chemistry at work, molecules trading energy in perfect timing with the night. Crickets and katydids provide the soundtrack. Their stridulating wings create repeating patterns that carry far through the still air. These patterns are more than background noise. They are territorial declarations and love songs intertwined. Some species adjust their tempo to temperature, so that the rhythm of the field mirrors the rhythm of the environment itself. The night's music then becomes an audible thermometer, a direct translation of heat into sound. While many nocturnal insects thrive in darkness, others sleep through it. Bees cluster in their hives, butterflies hang beneath leaves, and diurnal dragonflies cling to reeds in stillness. The division of day and night ensures balance. While one community rests, another takes its place, maintaining the continuity of life without pause. This alternation, diurnal and nocturnal, motion and stillness, forms the planet's great heartbeat, one half inhaling light, the other exhaling shadow. Insects of the night must also navigate predators that rely on sound. Bats, masters of echolocation, fill the skies with ultrasonic cries, yet even here, evolution offers defense. Some moths detect these high frequencies and perform sudden evasive dives or loops to escape capture. Others emit ultrasonic clicks of their own, jamming the bat's sonar or imitating toxic species that bats avoid. This invisible duel, fought in complete darkness, is one of the most refined examples of sensory adaptation in nature. For those awake in the small hours, the presence of these creatures can feel like a lullaby. Their sounds rise and fall in gentle repetition, steady enough to calm the mind, unpredictable enough to remind us of life's spontaneity. The hum, the chirp, the glow, all form a continuous meditation on existence, a conversation between silence and motion. And as you rest, you may feel part of that same rhythm. The night does not sleep, it simply changes tone. Outside your window, wings brush softly against leaves. A cricket marks the passing of minutes with its patient song. Somewhere in the grass, a firefly blinks once more, its light fading gently as if in time with your breathing. The insects do not know they comfort us, but their presence reminds us that rest does not mean absence. It means participation in the larger quiet of the world. Let your own thoughts settle among these sounds. There is no need to force stillness. It arrives naturally, the way dusk gathers without command. The nocturnal world continues its work, steady and sure, as your body drifts into alignment with its calm. Every breath mirrors the wing beat of something unseen. Every pause echoes the hush of wings folding under stars. In this shared darkness, you are part of the same pattern, the gentle, unbroken pulse of the living night. That life, in all its forms, speaks the same language: pattern, rhythm, and resonance. Every sting in nature carries a lesson. For insects, venom is a tool of survival, a defense, a weapon, and sometimes a gift. The same molecules that cause pain or paralysis in one context can heal or protect in another. Evolution, in its quiet precision, has turned chemistry into language, one written in toxins and enzymes. What begins as harm can, through understanding, become medicine. The earliest venoms evolved as deterrents. Ants, wasps, and bees developed glands that produce complex cocktails of proteins and peptides. When injected through stingers or mandibles, these compounds disrupt cellular processes, trigger inflammation, or paralyze smaller prey. Each species fine-tuned its formula to match its ecological role. A fire ant's sting delivers alkaloids that burn and itch, designed to repel intruders many times its size. The sting of a honeybee contains melittin, a peptide that ruptures cell membranes and alerts the colony to danger through scent. Nature's chemistry, though painful to us, is exquisitely purposeful. Scientists studying these venoms have discovered that their complexity makes them powerful tools for medicine. Melittin, for instance, has been found to possess anti-inflammatory and antibacterial properties. In controlled doses, it disrupts harmful cells more than healthy ones, leading researchers to explore its potential in treating chronic pain, arthritis, and even cancer. The same substance that defends a hive may one day protect a human body from disease. The ant world provides similar examples. The venom of the South American bullet ant, considered one of the most painful in existence, activates nerve receptors in ways that help scientists understand human pain pathways. By mapping how these toxins interact with ion channels, researchers design better anesthetics and treatments for nerve damage. Another species, the green tree ant, uses its formic acid defensively, a compound now recognized for its antiseptic qualities. Primitive societies once crushed these ants to clean wounds, long before chemistry gave those instincts a name. Wasps, too, contribute to this alchemy of survival and healing. Their venom contains peptides that paralyze prey but also display antimicrobial effects. A compound called mustoperan, for instance, disrupts bacterial membranes, inspiring new classes of antibiotics. Even more astonishing is a wasp venom component, known as MP1, which selectively attacks cancer cells by exploiting differences in their membranes. What once served to immobilize a caterpillar could one day disarm a tumor. The boundaries between danger and remedy blur further when we consider the honeybee's dual gift, venom and honey. While the sting warns predators away, honey, another product of the hive, soothes and heals. It contains hydrogen peroxide, enzymes, and antioxidants that inhibit bacterial growth. For centuries, it has been used to treat burns, infections, and throat irritation. The same organism that can harm us in defense offers, in peace, a substance that restores. Nature is rarely one thing. It balances contradiction with precision. In the broader ecosystem, venom maintains equilibrium. Predators regulate prey populations, preventing overgrowth that could collapse entire food webs. Some parasitic wasps use venom to anesthetize hosts before laying eggs, their larvae feeding in safety while the victim remains alive but unaware. It is an unsettling yet efficient strategy, one that demonstrates how finely evolution tunes each chemical tool. Even this harsh efficiency sustains balance. Without predation, ecosystems stagnate. Without defense, life would collapse under its own vulnerability. The study of insect venom reminds us how closely fear and discovery are linked. What once symbolized danger now guides scientific innovation. In every laboratory where researchers isolate new peptides or map protein structures, the legacy of these small creatures continues. Through their chemistry, we learn that harm and healing are not opposites but twins divided by understanding. When we observe insects only as irritants, we overlook the deeper story. They are living laboratories of molecular design. Their venoms hold blueprints for precision drugs, their stings teach us about nerve function, and their interactions maintain ecological health. Each drop of venom, each sting, is a note in a larger symphony, one that orchestrates both defense and creation. Somewhere tonight, a bee rests within its hive, its stinger dormant, its venom sealed until needed. In another place, researchers study those same compounds to soothe human pain. The loop between fear and healing closes quietly, a reminder that nature wastes nothing, not even its weapons. For as long as there have been humans, insects have shared our world. They were here before us, and they will remain long after we are gone. Across every culture and age, people have watched their movements, admired their discipline, and feared their persistence. From ancient myths to modern science, insects have served as symbols, teachers, and adversaries, small companions in humanity's story of survival and meaning. In ancient Egypt, the scarab beetle was a creature of reverence. Egyptians observed how dung beetles rolled perfect spheres of earth and waste across the sand and buried them in the ground. From these buried orbs, new beetles later emerged. To them, it was a metaphor for the rising sun, life born from apparent death. They carved scarabs from stone, wore them as amulets, and buried them with their dead. The beetle became a sacred emblem of rebirth and eternity, echoing the eternal cycle of transformation that governs the earth. In China, the cricket held a different place in human imagination. Its song was not a nuisance but a celebration of vitality. People kept crickets in carved wooden cages, listening to their rhythmic chirps as omens of good fortune. Poets compared their steady cadence to the flow of time itself. The small creature, hidden in grass or clay pots, taught patience and reflection, a lesson in finding harmony with the sounds of the natural world. In ancient Greece, bees were seen as messengers between humans and gods. Their honey, golden and enduring, was the nectar of immortality. Aristotle studied their colonies and marveled at their order. Philosophers compared the hive to the ideal state, each member fulfilling a role, no motion wasted, no ego above the whole. Centuries later, medieval Europe would adopt the same metaphor. Monarchs and monks alike saw in bees the image of divine governance, harmony born from structure, productivity balanced by loyalty. In Japan, the firefly carries a quieter symbolism. Its glow in the humid night is associated with the souls of the departed, flickering gently between worlds. Festivals celebrate this brief illumination as a reminder of impermanence, beauty that lives in the instant before fading. In the poetry of Basho and others, the firefly becomes a metaphor for thought itself, luminous, fragile, fleeting. Not all relationships between humans and insects have been gentle. Locusts, for instance, are woven into our oldest stories of fear. In sacred texts and oral traditions alike, their swarming symbolizes divine punishment or natural imbalance. To early civilizations dependent on crops, a sky darkened by locusts meant famine. Yet, even in devastation, people saw mystery, a reminder that nature's power transcended human control. In modern times, insects have influenced human innovation in subtler ways. The structure of bee combs inspired architecture. The wings of dragonflies informed aerodynamics. The compound eyes of flies guided the design of multi-lens cameras. Silk, produced by the humble silkworm, shaped global trade routes and economies for centuries. Insects, without intention, have been architects of our culture, our science, and our art. Their symbolism endures in language. We speak of busy as a bee, a social butterfly, a fly on the wall. Each phrase captures a fragment of their behavior and mirrors it in our own. The metaphors reveal admiration as much as familiarity, recognition that their small patterns echo our larger ones. Yet the line between symbolism and coexistence is growing thinner. Cities expand, pesticides spread, and once common species vanish quietly. Scientists warn that the decline of insects could unravel ecosystems and economies alike. The creatures that built our myths now depend on our awareness for survival. They have shared their lessons of cooperation, transformation, and balance, and now wait for us to apply them with care. Perhaps that is the final meaning of our long partnership. From temples to laboratories, humans have looked to insects for models of order and endurance. They teach without language, showing that progress does not always mean control, and that harmony is built from adaptation. Their civilizations beneath soil, in wood, and within hives mirror our own, complex, fragile, interdependent. As night deepens, the connection persists. Somewhere, bees fan the air inside their hive. Crickets keep rhythm in the grass. Fireflies spark above rivers, as they have for millennia. Human civilization may glow brighter, but its light is temporary, just another flicker in the long story of life. The insects will remain silent witnesses, patient teachers, keepers of the enduring balance between creation and decay. From the moment humans began to cultivate the land, insects have been both partners and adversaries. Long before the invention of fertilizers or machines, they tilled the soil, pollinated crops, and kept ecosystems fertile. Yet they have also devoured harvests, spread disease, and tested the limits of human patience. In every field and orchard, there is an ancient, ongoing negotiation between the needs of people and the instincts of the smallest creatures on earth. The alliance begins with the pollinators: bees, flies, butterflies, beetles, and countless others whose daily work sustains nearly a third of global food production. Apple blossoms, almond groves, sunflower fields, and berry patches all depend on their precision. When a bee lands on a flower, the transaction is simple: nectar for nourishment, pollen for reproduction. But multiplied across billions of visits, it becomes the foundation of agriculture. Some farmers rent hives during bloom season to ensure pollination, while others plant wildflower borders to attract local insects year-round. In both cases, prosperity depends on wings. Beneath the soil, other allies work unseen. Ground beetles, lacewing larvae, and ants consume pests that would otherwise destroy crops. Ladybugs patrol leaves for aphids, their appetite measured in hundreds per day. Even wasps, often feared, serve as natural pest control. Parasitic species target caterpillars and crop-eating larvae, reducing the need for chemical pesticides. Every insect in this hidden network contributes to a quiet equilibrium, one that keeps the land alive. Yet for every helper, there is a challenger. Locusts, grasshoppers, and armyworms have devastated harvests since the dawn of civilization. Their swarms move like living storms, consuming entire fields within hours. Insects reproduce quickly and adapt easily. What humans see as abundance, they interpret as opportunity. Agricultural history is therefore a cycle of invention and response: new crops, new defenses, new infestations. The earliest farmers used smoke to drive pests away. Later generations developed traps, oils, and barriers. The modern world introduced synthetic pesticides, effective yet often indiscriminate, killing both pests and pollinators alike. This ongoing struggle forced humanity to look more closely at the ecosystems beneath its control. Integrated pest management, a method developed in the late 20th century, combined observation with restraint. Instead of eradicating insects completely, farmers learned to maintain balance, using natural predators, crop rotation, and limited intervention to keep populations stable. The approach reflects an understanding older than agriculture itself, that nature does not favor conquest, only cooperation. In rice fields across Asia, farmers discovered that dragonflies and spiders could reduce mosquito populations. In vineyards, tiny parasitic wasps keep grape pests in check. In coffee plantations, ants protect plants from borers, forming a biological defense network that costs nothing but respect. These relationships reveal a deeper truth. When nature is allowed to organize itself, it finds stability faster than humans can design it. The future of agriculture may depend on rediscovering that balance. As global temperatures rise, pests spread into new territories, threatening crops unprepared for their arrival. But within these challenges lie opportunities. Scientists now study insect behavior to design sustainable solutions: pheromone traps that confuse mating signals, crops genetically tuned to attract beneficial species, and pollinator corridors that reconnect fragmented habitats. Progress comes not from domination, but from learning the ancient logic insects already understand. Human culture has always reflected this tension. In art and folklore, locusts symbolize destruction while bees embody cooperation. The contrast mirrors agriculture itself: fragile abundance maintained through constant vigilance. The farmer's hope rests not in eliminating insects, but in listening to them, recognizing when they warn of imbalance and when they promise renewal. Standing in a field at dusk, one might notice how alive the soil sounds. A faint hum beneath the wind, a rustle among the leaves, the soft flicker of wings between stems. It is the sound of collaboration as old as humanity. Each beetle, bee, and butterfly participates in a negotiation written in pollen, soil, and air. The harvests that feed us are not ours alone. They are co-authored by creatures we can barely see. If the relationship between humans and insects seems uneasy, it is also essential. The same hands that sow seed depend on wings to ensure its return. Beneath every harvest lies the work of millions of quiet laborers, faithful yet fragile. In the fields, the pact continues, not between master and servant, but between two forces bound by necessity. The soil, the insect, and the farmer, each giving, each taking, each sustaining the other, in an unbroken dialogue of life. Insects do not merely live in the air. They have helped shape it. Every wing beat, every breath drawn through their delicate bodies participates in the vast exchange of gases that keeps the atmosphere balanced. Their influence is invisible but immense. From pollination and decomposition to soil aeration and gas cycling, they are among the planet's most constant engineers. The air we breathe carries their signature in ways few realize. At the microscopic level, insects are engines of respiration and release. Through their activities, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen circulate between land and sky. When termites digest wood, for example, they break down cellulose that would otherwise remain locked away for decades. In doing so, they emit carbon dioxide and methane, gases that re-enter the global cycle of life. Though often labeled as pollutants in human terms, these emissions are ancient parts of the Earth's balance, the slow exhalations of ecosystems maintaining equilibrium. Without decomposers, carbon would stagnate in dead matter. With them, it continues to flow through forests, fields, and air. The impact of insects on the planet's respiratory systems extends beyond decay. By pollinating plants, they indirectly govern photosynthesis, the great inhalation of the biosphere. Every seed that becomes a tree, every field of clover or sunflower, owes its existence to tiny pollinators who enable plants to capture sunlight and release oxygen. In that sense, insects are co-authors of the atmosphere itself. They have been participating in its renewal for over 400 million years, shaping the invisible composition of the air more profoundly than any single animal species. Flying insects also influence the physics of the lower atmosphere. As they move in massive swarms, they displace air, generate turbulence, and even affect small-scale weather patterns. Scientists studying radar images have discovered that migrating locusts and mayflies create faint atmospheric echoes detectable hundreds of meters above the ground. The collective mass of these moving clouds can reach thousands of tons, living aerosols carried on the wind. In their wake, they redistribute nutrients, spores, and microorganisms, connecting ecosystems across continents. The planet breathes through their migrations. Inside the soil, ants and beetles perform a quieter kind of air engineering. Their tunneling loosens compacted ground, allowing oxygen to penetrate deeper and carbon dioxide to escape. This process, known as bioturbation, is essential for the health of roots and microorganisms. Without it, many plants would suffocate, and decomposition would slow to a standstill. In agricultural terms, insects are natural ventilators of the earth, unseen aerators that keep fields fertile and alive. Termite mounds demonstrate the pinnacle of insect architecture in air management. These towering structures are not random piles of clay, but precisely engineered ventilation systems. Inside, air circulates through tunnels that maintain constant temperature and humidity, protecting the delicate symbiosis between termites and their fungal partners. Pressure differences created by wind outside draw stale air out and fresh air in. Engineers have studied these mounds for decades, modeling sustainable buildings after their design. Nature solved passive climate control long before humanity built its first city. Even in flight, Insects regulate their personal atmosphere. Through tiny openings called spiracles, they draw oxygen directly into their bodies. The system operates through diffusion, requiring no lungs or blood to transport gas. In small species, oxygen simply flows. In larger ones, rhythmic body movements pump air through tracheal tubes. This efficiency allows insects to maintain high metabolic rates, powering rapid flight without the weight of respiratory organs. It is a design that prioritizes lightness and simplicity, demonstrating evolution's talent for solving complexity through minimalism. In recent years, scientists have realized how deeply insect populations influence climate at scale. Their decline could reduce pollination and decomposition, altering carbon cycles and affecting atmospheric chemistry. What happens to insects ultimately happens to air. The fate of both is intertwined. When viewed from a distance, from the level of molecules rather than motion, insects emerge not as inhabitants but as participants in Earth's respiration. Their lives compose part of the planet's breath, their movements shaping the very atmosphere that sustains all other creatures. If one stands in a quiet meadow at dawn, the truth of this can be felt rather than seen. Mist rises, pollen drifts, and the faint hum of wings fills the air. Each vibration stirs invisible currents, mixing scent, warmth, and life. The air itself seems alive, a tapestry woven from countless motions, too small to track. In every direction, insects are working, breathing, moving, architects of air in both name and fact, keeping the unseen machinery of the planet turning with a patience older than the wind. The lives of insects are written in seasons. Every stage, from egg to larva, from pupa to adult, unfolds according to temperature, rainfall, and the angle of light that touches the earth. Unlike mammals, they do not carry their own warmth. Their bodies mirror the climate around them, making each life a reflection of its environment. To watch insects through the year is to see the calendar of nature itself: spring awakening, summer abundance, autumn withdrawal, and winter stillness. Spring is the season of beginning. The ground softens, sap rises, and the first warm days awaken hidden populations. Overwintering eggs crack open, cocoons loosen, soil tunnels fill with movement. Bees emerge from hives to scout for nectar. Dragonflies rise from ponds, and butterflies unfold their wings to test new air. The early flowers, crocus, dandelion, willow, depend on these pioneers, exchanging pollen for nourishment. Insects respond not to dates but to cues written in the air, hours of sunlight, soil temperature, and humidity. When these align, life returns almost overnight. By summer, the insect world reaches its crescendo. Warmth fuels flight, and abundance feeds reproduction. Fields hum with bees, grasshoppers leap through high grass, and fireflies blink over water. Each species claims its moment in the great rotation of fertility. The air grows dense with pheromones and song, crickets calling, cicadas resonating, beetles clattering under bark. The planet seems to pulse with activity, every wing beat another heartbeat of the season. Insects, though small, form the largest biomass on land during these months, transforming energy from plants into food for birds, reptiles, and mammals. This time of plenty is also preparation. Many species live only weeks as adults, their energy spent on mating and egg-laying before the next generation begins. Others gather and store. Ants build chambers of seeds and fungus. Bees fill combs with honey. Wasps hunt and feed larvae to ensure continuity. Life compresses into urgency, each hour of light an opportunity before the inevitable change. As summer fades, autumn rewrites the rhythm. Days shorten, temperatures drop, and the songs of insects grow slower, softer, fewer. Butterflies migrate southward, following invisible magnetic lines. Monarchs cross entire continents to reach warmer sanctuaries, guided by instincts older than history. Some bees die as their colonies retreat into dormancy. Others seal their hives, waiting through the cold. Ladybugs gather in clusters within bark and stone, their colors muted under frost. Beneath the soil, larvae burrow deeper, seeking the steady warmth of earth. In every corner of nature, activity narrows to persistence. Winter, to insects, is not an ending but a pause. Many enter diapause, a suspended state that halts growth and slows metabolism to almost nothing. Inside cocoons or frozen branches, they survive through antifreeze-like compounds that prevent ice crystals from rupturing their cells. Snow insulates them, trapping warmth in microclimates hidden from the open air. The forest may seem empty, but beneath its silence, life waits, patient and exact. When spring returns, the cycle resumes, precise, tireless, eternal. These seasonal transformations have shaped the behavior of every ecosystem on Earth. Birds migrate to follow insects, plants bloom to coincide with pollination, and predators time reproduction to match abundance. The pulse of insect life sets the tempo for the planet's symphony. Without it, the rhythm falters. Human societies once observed these patterns closely. Farmers marked the first appearance of bees to predict harvests. Ancient calendars recorded the timing of cicada calls, butterfly migrations, and locust swarms. Even today, scientists use insects as indicators of climate shifts. When flowers bloom earlier and butterflies arrive too soon, the synchronization between species breaks, a subtle but profound signal of change in the planet's pulse. There is quiet poetry in the resilience of these rhythms. Insects live by the Earth's clock, never hurrying, never delaying, perfectly tuned to cycles far older than civilization. Each generation overlaps with the next, forming an unbroken chain from prehistory to tomorrow. Imagine standing in a meadow through the turning year, the first bee tracing a hesitant path across a spring flower, the golden hum of midsummer, the crisp silence of winter where movement hides beneath frost. The insects do not fight the seasons, they become them. Their patience, their transformation, their acceptance of impermanence, all remind us that time is not a line but a circle, and that every pause contains the seed of beginning. Insects speak without voices. Their language is not made of words but of movement, scent, vibration, and pattern. To watch them closely is to see communication stripped to its essentials, direct, efficient, and free of confusion. Each signal serves a purpose: to warn, attract, coordinate, or deceive. It is a system older than sound itself, operating on frequencies the human senses barely register. Ants are perhaps the most eloquent in this silent world. Their entire civilization depends on chemical messaging. A forager who finds food lays down a pheromone trail, a microscopic scent path that others can follow. The more ants that walk it, the stronger it becomes, reinforcing success until the food is gone. Alarm pheromones trigger defense, drawing soldiers to the source of danger in seconds. Each compound carries meaning, each molecule tells a story. The colony acts as a single organism, its mind distributed among thousands of individuals bound by smell. Bees extend communication into motion. Inside the darkness of a hive, where sight fails, the famous waggle dance conveys both distance and direction to nectar sources. The angle of the bee's movement relates to the sun's position, while the duration of the dance signals how far to fly. Other workers observe and translate these patterns into action, leaving immediately to gather resources. It is navigation transformed into choreography, an instinctive geometry refined through millions of years of evolution. Butterflies and moths, creatures of light and air, rely on chemistry and color. Males release pheromones detectable over kilometers, guiding mates through open space. Their wings, patterned with ultraviolet markings invisible to humans, serve as visual codes of species and readiness. Some species even change their color slightly with age or temperature, signaling fertility or territoriality. To a butterfly, each flicker of light on a wing is a sentence written in reflection. Crickets and katydids communicate through rhythm. Their songs are specific not only to species but often to local populations, forming dialects of sound. Males call, females respond, and rival males adjust their timing to avoid overlap. The resulting harmony, a field alive with pulses and pauses, is not random. It is an acoustic map of identity and proximity, a network of messages vibrating through air and ground alike. Even larvae and social insects that live underground rely on communication. Termites tap their heads against tunnel walls to send vibrations through the colony. The frequency and pattern of these knocks convey alarm or coordination. In complete darkness, this drumming serves as a collective heartbeat, uniting thousands in silent synchronization. Scientists studying these systems often describe them as algorithms, simple rules producing complex behavior. An ant follows a gradient, a bee measures angles, a moth follows a plume. Yet behind the mechanics lies something more profound: unity without hierarchy, order without command. Communication among insects reveals how cooperation can emerge from simplicity. It shows that information need not pass through speech to create intelligence. This silent fluency also extends to deception. Some predators imitate the pheromones of their prey, luring victims into traps. Certain orchids produce scents identical to female bees, tricking males into attempting mating and thus carrying pollen. These acts of mimicry and manipulation prove that language in nature is not moral or moralizing, it simply works. Meaning is measured by effect, not intent. Humans, accustomed to words, often overlook this quieter mode of expression. Yet we, too, respond to invisible cues: the rhythm of breathing, the tone of silence, the alignment of movement. Insects remind us that connection does not require speech. It requires attention to motion, to timing, to pattern. As you rest, consider how every sound and vibration around you carries meaning, even in stillness. Outside, beneath leaves, and within soil, countless signals pass from one life to another, unspoken but perfectly understood. The world hums softly with communication that never stops, a low, steady rhythm shared by all living things. Let that rhythm accompany you now, steady, quiet, and complete, a reminder that understanding can exist without words, and that calm can come from simply listening to life itself. Though most insects live above ground, their story begins in water. The first wings, the earliest legs, the ancient blueprints of form and function all evolved along the edges of rivers and lakes. Even now, countless species spend their youth submerged before taking to the air. To look beneath the surface of a pond is to see another world, a mirrored version of the one above, alive with motion, strategy, and transformation. The water strider is one of nature's quiet marvels. It walks upon the surface without sinking, supported by legs coated in microscopic hairs that trap air and repel water. Each step creates ripples that bounce back like echoes, allowing the insect to detect movement through vibration alone. Striders skate across still water with perfect grace, hunting small prey that falls from the air. Their existence depends on physics as much as biology. Surface tension becomes their flaw, and the lightest ripple, their map. Beneath them, another drama unfolds. The larvae of dragonflies and damselflies prowl like miniature predators, armed with extendable jaws that shoot forward faster than the blink of an eye. They feed on tadpoles, mosquito larvae, and even small fish, their eyes rotating independently to track movement. These aquatic hunters breathe through gills hidden inside their abdomen, drawing water in and out in a rhythm that fuels both motion and stealth. When they finally emerge as adults, splitting their larval skins along a reed, they leave behind a shell, a record of transformation completed in silence. Mosquitoes follow a similar but subtler path. Their larvae, known as wigglers, hang upside down from the water's surface, breathing through tiny tubes that pierce the air. They feed on microorganisms, transforming stagnant pools into living ecosystems. When they mature and rise as flying adults, they become both nuisance and necessity, pollinators for certain plants, prey for fish and bats, and vectors of disease. In them, nature shows its neutrality. Life is never simply good or bad. It is functional. Mayflies, caddisflies, and stoneflies form another chapter in this underwater world. Their larvae cling to rocks in cold streams, filtering water or scraping algae from stones. Some species, like caddisflies, build cases from pebbles, sand, or plant fragments, gluing them together with silk. Each case is unique, like a shell built from the materials of its environment. When the time comes, the insect inside breaks free and flies upward, its brief adult life lasting only a day or two, long enough to reproduce before returning to the cycle of water and decay. In tropical wetlands, diving beetles and backswimmers dominate the surface. They carry bubbles of air beneath their wings, like miniature scuba tanks, allowing them to remain submerged for long periods. Their movements are precise, powered by oar-like legs that slice the water efficiently. In contrast, water boatmen glide upside down, their bellies silver with reflected light, their rhythm smooth as breath. Each motion follows the geometry of balance, a dialogue between buoyancy and force. For humans, these aquatic insects serve as indicators of environmental health. Their presence or absence tells the story of a river's purity. Some species tolerate pollution, others vanish at the slightest imbalance. Scientists studying water quality often begin by counting mayfly larvae or caddisfly cases, finding in their diversity a direct reflection of ecosystem integrity. The link between insects and water extends beyond biology. It shaped evolution itself. The transition from aquatic larvae to airborne adult represents one of nature's most successful designs. It allows species to exploit two worlds, one dense and protective, the other vast and free. The life cycle becomes a bridge, connecting the stability of water with the unpredictability of air. Standing beside a still pond at dusk, one might see wings breaking through the surface, droplets falling like sparks as new forms rise into the evening sky. Beneath, larvae continue their slow, patient work, unseen but essential. Above, adults trace fleeting patterns of light before returning their energy to the water once more. The cycle repeats, complete and unhurried. The insects of water remind us that change does not always mean escape. Sometimes transformation is a return, from depth to surface, from motion to stillness, from hidden to visible. The pond, in its quiet rhythm, teaches that every surface conceals a world, and every reflection is an invitation to look closer. Beneath each ripple lives an origin story, older than land, older than memory, carried still in the patient wings that rise from water into air. Beneath the noise and color of the living world lies an invisible system of equilibrium. Insects are its primary engineers, keeping flows of energy and matter moving so that no resource, process, or species dominates for long. They pollinate, decompose, prey upon herbivores, and serve as food for higher trophic levels. Through millions of small interactions, they steady ecosystems so forests remain fertile, rivers run clear, and grasslands regenerate after disturbance. Balance emerges from feedback. When plant biomass surges, herbivorous insects expand, thinning growth and returning nutrients to soil through frass and decay. If herbivores rise too sharply, predators and parasitoids respond, suppressing outbreaks before plants crash. Decomposers accelerate the turnover of litter into bioavailable compounds, preventing organic matter from locking nutrients away. None of this requires command. It is regulation through countless local decisions shaped by evolution. Consider a tropical forest. Termites break down lignified wood with microbial partners, releasing nutrients plants can use. Dung beetles bury waste, curbing parasites and improving soil aeration. Ants disperse seeds, placing them in microsites with higher survival odds. Parasitoid wasps track spikes in caterpillars and rapidly dampen them. Pollinators knit the system together, enabling sexual reproduction and gene flow across the canopy and understory. Each guild acts on a different lever of stability. Together they form a web of compensating forces. Functional diversity is the insurance policy of this web. Many species share roles but differ in timing, temperature tolerance, diet, or habitat preference. Ecologists call this response diversity. When drought favors one decomposer, a wetter year favors another, so the function persists despite change. Redundancy is not waste, it is resilience. Systems maintained by one specialist fail when conditions shift. Systems with overlapping specialists continue. Agricultural landscapes tell the same story at smaller scales. Ladybirds and lacewings suppress aphids. Ground beetles and rove beetles patrol soil for slugs and larvae. Hoverflies contribute both pollination and biological control. Hedgerows, flower strips, and undisturbed field margins amplify these services by providing nectar, nesting sites, and overwintering refuge. Where such habitat features vanish, farmers often find themselves replacing natural regulation with chemicals, incurring costs and eroding long-term stability. Balance also depends on thresholds. When insect predators or decomposers fall below critical densities, feedbacks flip. Leaf litter accumulates, fueling fires, pests outrun control, pollination sets fewer fruits. Conversely, when a keystone guild rebounds, for instance, dung beetles reintroduced to overgrazed ranges, soil infiltration improves, nutrient hotspots form, and plant communities diversify within a few seasons. Small changes in insect abundance can tip whole systems. Water cycles are equally bound to these engineers. Soil tunneling ants and beetles increase porosity, reducing runoff and erosion while raising groundwater recharge. In streams, caddisfly and mayfly larvae regulate algal films, influencing oxygen levels and habitat quality for fish. Emerging aquatic insects shuttle nutrients from water to land, feeding spiders, birds, and bats, thereby linking ecosystems that would otherwise remain separate. Predation and parasitism, often viewed narrowly as conflict, are stabilizers in this accounting. By selectively removing the most abundant or vulnerable individuals, predators spread risk and prevent boom-bust cycles. Parasitoids exhibit density-dependent control. As a host becomes common, encounter rates rise and the host's growth slows. These checks minimize extreme oscillations that can stress plants, microbes, and higher consumers. At larger scales, insects influence biogeochemistry. By accelerating decomposition and moving organic matter, they shape carbon and nitrogen fluxes between soil and atmosphere. Pollination underpins the primary production that draws carbon down. Herbivory recycles it back. Stability does not mean stasis. It is a dynamic balance of opposing flows, held within bounds by myriad wings and mandibles. Human systems can align with these dynamics. Mixed plantings stagger bloom times to sustain pollinators. Reduced tillage preserves ground-dwelling predators. Diversified rotations interrupt pest life cycles. Small water features support aquatic insect nurseries that, in turn, feed terrestrial food webs. Each design choice strengthens feedbacks that nature already uses. The pattern is clear. Insects do not manage ecosystems by force. They maintain them by continuity. They are present in numbers large enough, in niches diverse enough, and in rhythms precise enough to keep vital processes near equilibrium. Remove too many threads, and the fabric weakens. Keep the threads intact, and the fabric flexes with weather, disturbance, and time. Imagine a cross-section of healthy land, crumbly soil stitched with galleries, seeds carried to safe sites, leaves trimmed before they smother the understory, litter converted to humus, flowers visited in sequence so fruits set and ripen. There is no single hero. Balance is a property of the whole, created by multitudes doing modest work relentlessly well. Through that persistence, ecosystems hold their shape, not by resisting change, but by absorbing it and returning to form. To see an insect in flight is to glimpse one of nature's most refined designs in motion. For hundreds of millions of years, insects have ruled the air, not through strength or size, but through mastery of physics at a miniature scale. Their wings, muscles, and neural systems form a complete aerodynamic machine, able to hover, dart, and accelerate in ways that challenge even the most advanced aircraft. The science of how such small bodies conquer the air reveals how evolution turns simplicity into precision. At its core, insect flight depends on lift generated through unsteady aerodynamics. Unlike airplanes, which rely on smooth, laminar airflow, insects exploit turbulence. As a wing sweeps downward, it creates a small whirl of low pressure called a leading-edge vortex. This vortex clings briefly to the wing's surface, maintaining lift even at steep angles that would stall a rigid airfoil. When the wing reverses direction, the vortex detaches and a new one forms on the opposite stroke. The result is continuous lift, sustained by motion rather than shape. Each wing beat is a pulse of turbulence perfectly timed. This phenomenon becomes even more remarkable when measured. A bumblebee beats its wings about 200 times per second, a fruit fly more than 250. Such speed requires both flexibility and strength. The wing itself is a network of veins and membranes, light enough to bend under air pressure yet resilient enough to recover its shape instantly. Its motion resembles a figure-8 pattern, twisting and rotating at each end of the stroke to reverse airflow without losing momentum. The edges slice through air with surgical precision, and the entire wing vibrates like a living propeller. Power for this movement comes from specialized muscles inside the thorax. In many species, these muscles do not contract once per nerve signal. Instead, they oscillate automatically, a property known as asynchronous activation. One impulse can produce multiple contractions, greatly increasing efficiency. The thorax acts as a resonant chamber, storing and releasing energy like a spring. This allows bees, flies, and beetles to maintain long periods of flight without fatigue, an evolutionary breakthrough that redefined what small bodies could achieve. Coordination is just as critical as strength. Insects rely on an intricate balance system that allows them to correct course within milliseconds. Flies, for instance, use tiny club-shaped organs called halteres, modified hindwings that act as gyroscopes. As the insect turns, the halteres sense Coriolis forces and send rapid feedback to wing muscles, stabilizing orientation. Dragonflies achieve similar control through paired nerve circuits that link each wing independently, enabling them to hover motionless or pivot in mid-air. These neural systems operate faster than conscious reaction. They are reflex loops, evolved for perfection. The evolution of flight also changed how insects perceive their world. Compound eyes process motion at astonishing speed, giving them the ability to see movement in a way humans cannot. Where our vision blurs during rapid motion, theirs remains crisp, allowing precise alignment with air currents or prey. Some dragonflies have neurons dedicated solely to predicting the trajectory of moving targets, a biological computer programmed for pursuit. Flight has shaped not only anatomy but behavior. Migration, mating, and escape all depend on it. Monarch butterflies travel thousands of kilometers each year, riding thermal columns and navigating by the position of the sun and Earth's magnetic field. Locusts form vast swarms that shift the balance of entire ecosystems, moving with the wind like a single organism. Even the brief flights of ants and termites during their mating season ensure genetic exchange and renewal across colonies. The sky becomes a medium for dispersal, communication, and adaptation. Scientists studying insect flight find principles that inform modern engineering. Microdrones mimic flapping wing mechanics to achieve stability in turbulent air. The flexible wings of bees inspire designs for wind turbines that adjust to changing flow. Even the compound structure of insect eyes influences modern motion tracking systems. Nature, through insects, solved the problem of aerial navigation billions of wing beats before humans understood lift. The precision of insect flight offers a lesson in efficiency. Nothing is wasted. Energy converts seamlessly to motion, structure flexes where needed, and control arises from feedback, not force. It demonstrates that mastery does not come from dominance over the elements, but from adaptation to them. If one watches a dragonfly hovering above water or a bee weaving between blossoms, what seems effortless is in truth a symphony of physics and biology, vortices forming, muscles resonating, air folding and unfolding beneath translucent membranes. Insects were the first to conquer the air, and they have never relinquished it. Each flight, from the tiniest hover to the longest migration, is a continuation of that original triumph, the moment life learned not merely to live in its environment, but to move freely through it. Time for insects is not measured in hours or days, but in temperature, light, and chemistry. Their internal clocks follow rhythms older than calendars, cycles of dawn and dusk, warmth and cold, hunger and renewal. To understand their lives, one must look beyond human timekeeping and see how biological time unfolds in pulses, reactions, and responses. Every motion, from wing beat to metamorphosis, follows a temporal code shaped by the planet's rotation and the rhythm of the sun. At the smallest scale, an insect's heart, muscles, and neurons obey a steady beat defined by metabolism. Because insects are ectothermic, their body temperature depends on the environment. Every process accelerates in warmth and slows in cold. A bee's wing muscles hum faster under sunlight. A beetle's digestion halts when frost arrives. This sensitivity allows perfect synchronization with the seasons, ensuring energy is never wasted when conditions cannot sustain flight or growth. Scientists studying insect circadian rhythms have found remarkable precision in creatures with such small nervous systems. Even without a brain the size of a pinhead, many species maintain 24-hour cycles guided by internal molecular clocks. These rhythms control when bees forage, when mosquitoes bite, and when fireflies flash. Within cells, genes like period and timeless rise and fall in expression, producing oscillations that persist even in constant light or darkness. It is chemistry imitating the passage of day. In social insects, time takes on another dimension, collective rhythm. A beehive, for example, operates as a single organism with distributed timekeeping. Foragers anticipate sunrise and gather before the first light. Nurses feed larvae in cycles that match the colony's temperature shifts. Guards patrol in coordinated intervals. The result is a society synchronized not by command but by shared physiology. When external cues vanish, bees still sense the sun's position through polarized light patterns, orienting themselves with astonishing accuracy. Other insects stretch time in extraordinary ways. Mayflies compress their adult lives into mere hours, fitting an entire existence, emergence, flight, mating, and death within a single day. Their perception of time, if it could be measured, must differ from ours entirely. At the opposite extreme, certain beetle larvae hibernate for years inside wood, waiting for decay to reach the perfect stage before completing their transformation. To them, stillness is part of motion, patience part of survival. There are even insects that navigate through time as they navigate through space. Monarch butterflies, during their migration across North America, rely on an internal clock located in their antennae to adjust their flight path relative to the sun's movement. If the rhythm is disrupted, their navigation falters. The precision of this timekeeping allows them to travel thousands of kilometers and arrive at the same overwintering sites their ancestors visited generations before. Temperature also sculpts time into living form. Insects use it as a signal to start or stop growth, a biological calendar known as degree days. Each species requires a specific accumulation of warmth to reach maturity. Farmers use this principle to predict when pests will appear, while forensic scientists apply it to estimate time of death from insect development stages. To an insect, time is not abstract, it is heat-made measurable. The sense of time influences behavior beyond survival. Crickets modulate their chirps with temperature, creating natural thermometers audible in the night. Dragonflies patrol the same routes at the same hours each day, guided by internal rhythms tied to the sun's arc. Even hibernation, the insect's deep sleep, is a negotiation with time, suspending life until the world becomes hospitable again. In the broader perspective, insects teach that time is relative to scale and purpose. What feels fleeting to humans may be entire generations to a fly. What feels eternal to us, the life of a tree, the migration of a butterfly lineage, is a chain of moments stitched together by instinct. They remind us that time is not a straight line, but a fabric woven from cycles, each thread vital to continuity. If one pauses to watch them, a bee tracing its route to the same flower at the same hour, or a moth emerging from its cocoon precisely as dusk falls, it becomes clear that their awareness of rhythm is not lesser than ours, only different. Theirs is the time of the planet itself, circular, self-correcting, and exact. And in their quiet adherence to that rhythm, insects maintain the pulse of the living world, the heartbeat of Earth measured in wing beats, breaths, and returning light. The story of insects is not only one of success, it is also a record of loss. For every species that thrives, another fades unnoticed, its rhythm silenced beneath soil or asphalt. Over the past century, entomologists have recorded steep declines in insect abundance, some regions losing more than half their populations within a human lifetime. These losses are not isolated statistics. They ripple through ecosystems, economies, and the invisible fabric that supports all life. Yet within this story of disappearance lies another: resilience, the ability of small life to adapt, endure, and recover. The decline begins with the simplest disruptions. Habitat fragmentation turns continuous meadows into isolated islands. Pesticides, designed to target pests, also strike pollinators, predators, and decomposers. Artificial light confuses nocturnal insects, drawing them into lethal spirals around street lamps until exhaustion claims them. Climate change adds another layer of instability: mismatched seasons, droughts that halt flowering, floods that drown eggs. Each factor alone can be survived. Together they overwhelm. Bees illustrate this crisis vividly. Wild bee species have vanished from many landscapes, their nesting grounds replaced by monoculture crops and concrete. Managed honeybee colonies, though abundant, cannot replicate the diversity of wild pollinators. Where once dozens of species visited a field, now a handful remain. Fewer pollinators mean less fruit, less seed, and less resilience in the plant community itself. The loss compounds silently, generation after generation, until ecosystems thin like old fabric. Aquatic insects suffer similarly. Rivers, polluted by agricultural runoff, lose mayflies and caddisflies, the same species that once purified those waters through their feeding. Without them, oxygen levels drop, algae bloom, and fish populations decline. Forests, stripped of decomposers, retain their dead leaves longer, slowing nutrient cycles and reducing fertility. Even city parks, when treated with broad-spectrum pesticides, become silent, their summer air devoid of hum and flicker. Yet amid these losses, insects continue to prove astonishingly adaptable. Urban ecologists have documented species evolving tolerance to heavy metals and heat within decades. Some butterflies shift their range northward faster than trees can follow. Ants colonize new habitats by adjusting diet and nesting behavior. Mosquitoes evolve resistance to insecticides generation after generation, illustrating both the challenge and tenacity of evolution at work. Life, compressed into small bodies and rapid cycles, finds solutions quickly. Humans, too, are learning to respond differently. The old approach, control through eradication, is giving way to coexistence. Farmers increasingly integrate wildflower strips, hedgerows, and natural pest predators into crop systems. Architects design green roofs and vertical gardens that provide nectar corridors across cities. Conservation groups create insect hotels, shelters for solitary bees and beetles, transforming urban corners into sanctuaries. Even small actions, multiplied across millions of people, begin to restore the hum once lost. Science plays its part. Genetic sequencing helps track declining populations, while citizen scientists record sightings that build vast global databases. Pheromone traps, precision agriculture, and microbial biocontrol replace broad toxins with targeted methods. The shift is not only technical but philosophical, from domination to partnership. Insects are no longer viewed as nuisances to be managed, but as collaborators in keeping the world functional. Resilience also emerges through diversity. In ecosystems with many species, losses can be absorbed as others fill roles. This redundancy, built by evolution, is nature's insurance policy. Even when populations crash, remnants persist in hidden corners, deep soil layers, isolated valleys, protected reserves, waiting for conditions to improve. After fire, flood, or drought, they return. Insects are ancient survivors of cataclysm. They endured mass extinctions that erased most other forms of life. Their strategy is not resistance but flexibility. If their decline alarms us, it also offers perspective. The crisis is not final but transitional, a warning written in miniature. Insects reflect the state of the planet more faithfully than any gauge or satellite. Their presence signals abundance, their absence, imbalance. To protect them is to protect the processes that sustain air, water, and soil. Somewhere tonight, beneath leaves or under light, a single bee still hums, a beetle still tunnels, a moth still turns toward a star rather than a lamp. Each small motion is defiance against collapse, a continuation of an unbroken lineage stretching back hundreds of millions of years. Their survival is not guaranteed, but neither is their surrender. In every wing beat, there remains persistence, the will of life to continue adapting, no matter how much the world changes around it. Insects remind us that life endures through continuity. They were here when the first forests spread across the continents and will remain long after our cities fade back into dust. Every wing beat, every soft crackle in the grass, carries the story of adaptation, a story that never ends, only transforms. Their world is older than language, older than thought, yet it continues to shape every breath we take and every seed that grows beneath the sun. From the smallest fruit fly to the monarch that crosses oceans of air, insects move through existence as both individuals and processes. They are engineers, recyclers, pollinators, prey, and architects of ecosystems that sustain all higher life. Each performs its role without intention, yet together they embody purpose, the quiet maintenance of balance. Evolution has sculpted them into near-perfect mechanisms, yet their presence remains a symbol of fragility, a reminder that complexity rests upon the smallest foundations. When viewed closely, their continuity becomes visible in every stage of metamorphosis. The egg's stillness hides the larva's potential. The larva's hunger builds the energy for transformation. The pupa, seemingly lifeless, holds an entire organism reorganizing itself into flight. It is rebirth condensed into days, the physical manifestation of change as a law of life. This rhythm repeats endlessly across species and continents, a biological heartbeat connecting past and future. Across time, insects have been witnesses to the planet's shifting face. They flew above dinosaurs, survived meteor impacts, adapted to ice ages, and accompanied humanity's rise. Where humans alter landscapes, insects return, reshaping what remains into new order. Their resilience is not defiance, but acceptance, an understanding woven into their design that change is not an interruption, but the pulse of existence. When we measure their influence, the air they move, the crops they sustain, the soil they renew, we begin to see how their presence binds the living world together. Remove them, and the structure unravels. Protect them, and life continues its quiet dialogue between matter and motion. They teach that continuity is not permanence but process, a dance of birth, decay, and renewal that makes stability possible. In their stillness, too, there is meaning. A cocoon hanging beneath a leaf through winter holds the blueprint for an entire summer of color. A dormant bee in the hive dreams no dreams, yet its rest ensures another season of flight. Even in absence, insects prepare for return. The pattern never stops. It only pauses long enough for the world to shift slightly before beginning again. For humans, whose lives unfold on faster scales of thought but slower cycles of change, this continuity offers perspective. Our technologies, our systems, and our worries belong to a single moment in the planet's long evolution. Insects remind us that progress is not linear, that life survives not by outpacing time but by adapting to it. Their persistence is patience made visible. As you rest, you may sense that same patience around you, in the faint hum beyond your window, in the pulse of the night that never fully sleeps. The rhythm of life continues quietly, balanced and unhurried. Insects breathe, feed, and transform as they always have, their movements woven into the stillness that helps the mind drift toward calm. Their world is not separate from ours, it is part of the same continuity that carries both waking and sleep. Allow that realization to settle like soft wings folding at dusk. There is no need to search for endings here, only ongoing motion, steady, gentle, complete. Life does not conclude. It renews itself in forms too small to see, in cycles too vast to measure. The insects continue their work beneath soil and sky, and in doing so, they ensure that the earth itself never ceases to breathe. We, from Sleepy Stories, wish you a good night.